theyeshiva.net.
There's a word from the Rebbe Rashab, the fifth Lubavitcher Rebbe, Reb Shalom Dov Ber, who once said that at the Yahrzeit of a tzaddik, of a Rebbe, of a Manig Yisrael, so the neshama of the tzaddik is ma'orer rachamim for all people that are connected to him, and their wives, and all of the children. The Yahrzeit of a tzaddik. He said, however, b'shas chassidim come together to learn from his Torah and farbrengen together on the Yahrzeit, so then this is like writing a pan. There's sometimes a person goes to a tzion and writes a kvittel, but he said there's another way of writing a kvittel. When chassidim come together on the Yahrzeit to learn his Torah and to farbrengen together, to inspire each other, to strengthen each other in avodas Hashem, in avos Hashem, in avos HaTorah, in avos Yisrael, and all the ideas of the Baal HaYahrzeit. So this is like they're writing together a collective pan, and it's ma'orer even more rachamim and brachas and ashpas on all the people and their families and their children. Which is why, since everybody here in this room, or most people in the room, or Rubam Kekulim in the room, had the schus to be toyim, to taste, to at least make the tongue wet with the Torah of the Baal HaTanya, Shulchan Aruch of the Alter Rebbe, the Baal Yartzeit, Torah Sanigla, and his Torah Achsidus, his Tanya, his Torah his Likud Torah, his other Sfarim, his Maimarim. There were also those of us who last year had the Schus Chaf-Daled Teves to be Zich Mishtateach on his holy resting place in the city of Hadich in the Ukraine, where he passed away, where he was interred after his passing. Chaf-Daled Teves, Tovkuf Ayin Gimel, the 24th of Teves, December 1812.
Hadich.
In Hadich, yeah, a group of us went last year, Chaf-Daled Teves to Hadich. So as the Megillah says, Hayamim Ha'ela Niskarim V'nasim. So first we'll begin with Alechayim. Everybody can join me. L'chaim to everybody. The schus of the Baal HaYilula, the schus of the Baal HaTanya should be mamshich shefa bracha v'atzlacha to each and every one of you, and your spouses and your mishpachas and children and grandchildren. Hashem should fulfill all of your heart's desires. Begeshem u'beruach, b'toich harchavas hadas, and b'toich hatzlacha meruba ad v'lidai. B'toich v'anira v'anigla, l'chaim. What's up, son niggin of the Baal HaTanya that everybody knows? Ya da da ya da 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 ya 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 da 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 ya ba ya ba ba ya 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 ba ba ya I asked Rabbi Isaac to copy. You did it. You did it. To copy 2 short Maimorim from the Baal from the Baal HaTanya. They come from a sefer called Maimorei Admur Hazaken Haktorim, which means the brief, the short, the concise discourses of the Alter Rebbe of Admur Hazaken, the Baal HaTanya. The truth is, they're short in quantity, but each one can be learned for a few days or a few weeks. But I didn't know if we'll be able to do both. They're both short, but I thought maybe we'll be able to do both. We'll see. So you have the copies. We'll start with the first one. I'm not going to so much I'm not going to stop and focus on each letter and each line, each word, even though you could, but more to betoifes a little bit of the oir, the light, the energy that the Baal HaTanya, the Baal HaTanya is conveying here in this Maimer. Now it's interesting. B'chlal and Chabad, they weren't very into Shoivavim. But there's one Maimer of the Baal HaTanya about Shoivavim. That's one Maimer. And this is it. And even in this Inyan, you see a certain approach that I thought is very apropos for many of us in life. So he starts off Shovavim. Shovavim is an acronym of Shmois, Va'era, Boy, B'Shalach, Yisroi, Mishpatim. So you look at the word Shovavim on top, you see Shmois, Va'era, Boy, B'Shalach, Yisroi, Mishpatim. According to the Mekubalim, according to the Kabbalists, these weeks are conducive to repair all blemishes that are connected to the bris on every level. As he starts off, Inyan Shovavim Tikkun L'Pgam Bris. It's weeks that are conducive to repair all blemishes that are connected to the place and the areas of the bris in every person's life. The minig by many Mekubalim and by many Chassidim and by many Yidden is that they fast during these weeks. During Shmois, through Truma, they fast. Some people are up at night. They say special tefillahs. They learn special things. So it's in certain kehillas, it's a whole Shayuvim is a whole matzav. It's a whole situation. The Be'er Heitev brings it in Shulchan Aruch, Mishnah Chassidim. I mean, it comes from big people. So the Baal HaTanya here is going to give his perspective on this concept. So he says, he changes the subject. It starts off Parsha Shmois. The question is, why does it start Shmois? What's the connection? So he says, Lahavin ma sheheshav Hashem yisbarach l'Moshe k'sheshaloi v'amru li mashmoi ma'omer aleihim eye ekesh l'chani aleichem she'ena tshuva al shalosam sheshalu simen la'amrei Hashem nirei elai she'aminu b'dvarav v'gam lama le'amalem shem avaya. What happens is, in Parsha Shmois, Hashem sends Moshe by the burning bush. He sends Moshe by the burning bush to go to the Jewish people. So Moshe says, they're going to ask me, when I come to the Jewish people, they're going to ask me, Mashmoi, what's his name? You say, I'm going to come and say that Hashem sent me to you. So they say, Mashmoi, what's his name? Ma'omer aleim, what should I say to them? So Hashem says, tell them, Eya asher eya. I will be who I will be. Tell them that Eya Eka, the one who I will be, sent me to you. That's what Moshe. That's what Hashem tells Moshe. So the Baal HaTanya says, doesn't understand. Moshe Rabbeinu is coming and he's telling them that Hashem nirei elai, that God appeared to me. They're going to want to simon. They're going to want to believe it. Everybody can come and say, people have done it, right? That God appeared to them, that God communicated to them. He's going to say, Hashem nirei elai. So they're going to want to have a simon. How do we know it's you? So Hashem says, that's what it means, what's his name? Not stam, what's his name? How do you know it's his name? They want to have a simon. So what is he going to say? The word Eya, I will be. How does that answer the question? And also, why didn't he say the main name? Yud Kei Vav Kei. Mashmoi, what's the name? The main name of Hashem is Havaya, Shem Havaya Yud Kei Vav Kei. Va'inyin, the concept, the explanation is Va'etza ha'yutza, the best advice, L'chol asher noga yiras Hashem b'levavoi, L'shalich l'fnei Hashem be'emes. To anybody who wants the fear of God to touch his heart, and he wants to walk before Hashem with truthfulness, ubetam, and with innocence, with wholesomeness, this is the way that the light of Hashem can dwell in him. This is the way. This is the eitz. He's going to get back to the question soon. A person should think in his heart. There's no question without a doubt. Who tamid sichloi v'liboy b'chol tavoisav rak kol hayom shobchinas mitzrayim ki yadua. A person should realize that constantly there's a part of him that's in Egypt, a part of him that is locked up and confined in Egypt. His mind, his heart, his addictions, his habits, instincts, a whole day are capable of craving things that are unhealthy, unwholesome, destructive, because he's in Egypt. He should realize that. Don't deny it, don't repress it. Don't try to think that the way you're going to connect to God is because you don't have any issues. You don't have any baggage. He says that's not going to be the derech. The derech is to realize that all day, 24 hours a day, with any trigger, somebody looks at you the wrong way in work, yeah? Somebody sends you the wrong text. Yeah, it's all there. With one trigger, all the issues emerge. Why? If it can happen with a trigger, it means it was there. It means it was just waiting. It's not even a bear that was hibernating in a cave. It's not hibernating, it's out there. If with one trigger, any moment of the day, you can get zapped into anger or depression or despair or sadness or melancholy or frustration or whatever it is, that means that a whole day you're in Egypt. Once you realize this, that you really realize it, and therefore you're not surprised, you shouldn't get upset. This itself can put you in a depression. Fine, so you're a piece of garbage, you're dirty, accept that you're dirty. So no. You should tell himself, it's true. I can't expect anything else. In a moment's notice, I can end up in the spiritual, psychological, emotional abyss. Why is he surprised? Why shouldn't it be this way? Mitzad all the layers that exist in the person, whether it's his body, his yetzer hara, his animal soul, his trauma, whatever you want to call it today, or whatever names you want to call it, why shouldn't it be this way? Why does he expect anything else? However, there's something else. Yaakov chevel nachalose. The pasuk says in Parshas Hazinu, Ki chelek Hashem amai. His nation is a part of Hashem. Yaakov chevel nachalose. Yaakov is the rope of his inheritance. So he says chelek elika mamish. The Jew is also a chelek elika, is a soul that's a piece of Hashem kevayachol, a fragment of elika mamish. Like he says in Tanya, v'nefesh Hashem is b'Yisrael, is a chelek elika mamish. A love esa nafshi. And to him, to Elika, which I'm part of, I lift up my soul. Ubay im chafetz b'mitzvayso v'chukov lehidavek b'terasa. And in him, I desire, with his mitzvahs and his laws, and to connect in his Torah. Af she'eni yedei shum seichel v'asaga la'avinu klal klal. Even if the person really doesn't have a way of understanding him at all, he has no way of grasping the divine. He doesn't know, he doesn't have to know a reason for the Ru'usa Deliber. Ru'usa Deliber means the Ratzon Halev. Ru'usa in Aramaic means will, desire, passion. Lib is the heart. He doesn't even know a reason for the passion that he has in his heart. You know why? Ki eina shaloi. It's actually not his own. It's not coming because of his bright intelligence. Not because of his righteousness. The Metzias is that he is a piece of Elikus. And since he's a piece of Elikus, he's a piece of godliness, so every single moment he craves to connect to the source from which he was taken. When you say chelek, a part, we don't mean physically. It's a concept. Just like you'll say a child is part of a mother. Child doesn't mean that, it means that the child essentially begins with the father and mother, with the seed, with the egg, and then the child becomes something separate. But because it's essentially one, the child always has a relationship with parents. So he says, mitzad the chelek elikus in him. So it's not the pshat that he's righteous or he's brilliant or he understands. The mitzias is that there's a major, the core of him is divine, so it craves to go back to its source, to be one with its source. When a person realizes all of this, what's all of this? Both of these components. Not to be surprised by the fact that there's a part of me that at any moment can end up in Mitzrayim. Why? Why not? Why not? Why should I expect otherwise? There's a bunch of issues, my external layers, a whole day, that's where they are, and therefore any moment they could be zapped into that. On the other level, a person should realize it's completely not a contradiction to the fact that he's a chelik elokam mal mamish, he's a piece of Hashem, and therefore he remains connected, and he has a ru'usa deliba ratzon, he may not even understand anything about Hashem, and he doesn't even know the reason. Why? But that's the fact that he has a ru'usa deliba, he has a ratzon, and it's not his own. It's not because of his genius or because of his righteousness. It's because of the chelik elokusin. And when he realizes all of this, b'sarusa de l'sata, isarusa de l'eila. The arousal from below creates an arousal from above. Kahai gavani yis'oirer gamkin l'mayla. The emotion that a person has triggers kavayachal or responds by Hashem also. Shakadosh Baruch Hu yis'oirer avos l'yisnol avshal yimtza tam v'das b'pnei ma'yah avaysa. That Hashem's love to the Jewish people gets triggered, even if he finds no reason why he should love this particular person or these people. It's completely irrelevant, just like by the person. He says, I don't have to understand why I love God. I don't need it should make sense. Because if he tries to make sense, the paradoxes are too much. 1 minute he's a basket case. 1 minute he seems filthy and lowly and he's in the air. Anybody relates to this? 1 minute he's mamish in the air. And suddenly another minute you're talking to him about God. Come on. Decide who you are and stop with all these lies and paradoxes. Other do bizdos, other do bizdos. So some people deny that this ever happens to them. They have to repress it, they have to crush it. No, it's not me. So their whole life they're busy convincing themselves that everything they're feeling is not real and it's just they're having a bad day, they didn't eat, they ate too much this. In other words, they're spending most of the time denying what exists. So he says, no, if you can accept that, and accept that that's very real, and accept that with that very moment, and in that very relationship, and in that very reality, you're also a shtikal elikus. And that's where you have a ru'usa deliba, and it doesn't have to make sense to you. If you'll start with your rationale, you have all the reasons to be down, you have all the reasons to be dirty, you have all the reasons to be moral. But what should you do? God put himself into you. So there's a part of you that craves truth, craves God. So he says, what that does, Hashem is the same thing. Your love to him doesn't have to be al pi seichel, so his love to you doesn't have to be al pi seichel. B'meila, avshliim tzatam v'das b'pnei ma'yah v'yisam mekomakem yah v'yisam lehetiv lem b'chol mila demetiv. K'mesha kasuv, the pasuk says, v'eschanan loy mirubchem mikol ha'amim v'loy b'tzidkoscha v'yoshel levavcha ki'im asher chashak Hashem she'im ha'ya avos Yisrael meizatam ha'ya gam ken avos HaKadosh Baruch Hu. If my love is motivated by a reason, his love is also for that reason. Is also by a reason. Ki kamayim haponim laponim. The face you show the water is the face the water shows back to you. The face I show the mirror reflects back to me. So the love that I show to Hashem or to the other person is the love that I receive back. So when my love is based on a reason, so the love in return is also based on a reason. When I realize the love doesn't have to have a reason, it doesn't have to be rational, I can have a lot of questions on it. But it is, I bring out the same type of love. I love this Jew for no reason, I just love him. You know why? Because we're one. This is what we mean whenever we say Hashem is the God of Avram. Pirush. This avodah is not coming from the human being's profound perception, because actually no thought can grasp him. So once you're relying on das or seichel, no thought can actually grasp his reality and say, I get it. This is the state of Avram who represented absolute love. It doesn't have to be mathematical. So Elikei Avram means the God of Avram. The Elikei I connect through Avram beyond Seichel. It's an Ava L'mayla Minanas because I have a Chelik Elikam Imal. And that's why his love to me is the same love. It reflects my love. V'hu nikra pokoit pakadati. When it says in Chumash, pokoit pakadati, K'moi v'Hashem pakad Sarah. The first time it says pakad, he remembered Sarah. So when it says, by Moshe, after he asks Hashem for his name, Hashem says, go gather the Jewish people and tell them, Hashem appeared to me and he said, Pakoit, pakadati yeschem. I remember you. Pokoit pakadati eschem. And Hashem says, V'shamu l'keilecha. They'll listen to you. So Rashi says, why are they going to listen to you? They already heard from Yaakov and Yosef that the one who's going to redeem them is going to use the word Pokoit pakadati. Because when Yaakov passed away, he said, Elikim Pokoid Yifkod Eschem. Hashem will remember you. When Yosef passed away, he said, Pokoid Yifkod Elikim Eschem V'alisim Esatzmoisai. Hashem will remember you and take out my bones. So when Jews had a simon, when they hear Pokoid Pakadati, I remember, they know, oh, this is good. Yaakov said it, Yosef said it. If Moshe is going to come and say, Pokoid Pakadati, V'shamu l'keilecha. Frag the Welt Akash, but Akasha, you can have, if Yaakov knows it, and Yosef knows it, and all the Jews know it, so there could be a Ganav who also knows it. Right? Like the old question. You don't blow shofar Erev Rosh Hashanah to confuse the Satan. Everybody knows we don't blow shofar to confuse the Satan. The only one who doesn't know is the Satan. He hasn't figured it out a few thousand years. He can't look in the calendar and see when Rosh Hashanah is. He really thinks, what, we're Tisha B'Av now? It's Tu B'Shvat, Chaf-Daled Teves. Who are you fooling you? Okay, it needs Pshat. We say you're confusing the Satan. Who's the Satan? He's such an idiot. Everybody knows, all the Jews know, you say Pocket Pakadati, it's a good sign. So you got a charlatan who learns Pocket Pakadati, right? You know the people sometimes who collect and they're not honest. They learn a few key phrases, Brucha, Tzlucha. They give the brachas and shuls. They go around, some of them are lavdavka Jewish even. You learn the phrases, and then segeit again. Big deal. Moshe could have gone and learned pocket pakadati. It's a psapela de kirashi. The pocket pakadati, that's it. 2 words, how hard is it? The Alter Rebbe says, no, it doesn't mean the words. Pocket pakadati is a message. Vashem pakad asara. Hashem remembered Sarah. Sholamayla memachshava umebchinis. Some correct this to be seichel. In the Haaretz, it's Mustama seichel. L'mayla machshav mebchinas seichel shobchinas das. Avol ze einay rak ritzoynay v'cheshek blita. Pakad pakadati means I remember you. V'Hashem pakad asara. Hashem remembered her. She had a baby at the age of 90. It's not exactly rational to have a baby. It represents a type of connection that is not necessarily rational. It doesn't have to make sense. This is what I want. This is what I want. This is who I am. So you'll say, why? Why? Explain it to me. You'll say why. You'll have a reason. You don't have a reason. This is who I am. This is what I want. So you'll say, yeah, but yesterday you were like this. It doesn't make sense. Good questions. But this is who I am. A Jew is a chelik alekamimal. 10 minutes ago, yesterday has... He says, I know. We know about everything else in you. That's not a chiddush. Learn to expect it and even honor the fact that it exists in you. But understand, it's completely not a contradiction to the fact that you have a ratzin that's completely beyond the time. This is who you are. This is the klal that Jews had. They heard it from Yosef. They're going to be redeemed from the dimension of pocket pakadati. In other words, it wasn't the words pocket pakadati. They had the Yosef. They told that this is what's going to allow them to be liberated. Because without this, they'll look at themselves and they'll say, "We're slaves. We're meant to be slaves." This is what happens constantly. A person looks in the mirror and says, I'm meant to be miserable. I'm meant to be a slave. Vaharaya, and you have probably 3,000 stories to back it up. Right? With your background and your situation and everything you went through. Well, you're not a slave. You're a free person. Was this a joke? Were you joking? What do they say? They say the rabbi and the priest and the minister walked into a bar. So the bartender looked at him and said, what's this, a joke? Right? So you come in and you decided you're going to liberate yourself. You're joking. You know it. When things go down south, when things go bad, so, this is already expected failing. Of course my life is not supposed to work. My life is not supposed to work. If it works, it's a chiddush. Sometimes you see somebody in shul, he looks happy, you want to know what he's on. If he's miserable, Baruch Hashem, you're miserable, let's be miserable together. My life is not supposed to work. I'm not supposed to be successful, I'm not supposed to have a good marriage, I'm not supposed to have a relationship with my children, I'm not supposed to have archav, I'm not supposed to be powerful, I'm not supposed to be gorgeous, I'm not supposed to be potent, I'm not supposed to be successful. Not me. I'm supposed to be a slave. V'lo shamu al Moshe mikoitze ruach u'me'avoda kosh. What was the simon that Yosef told them? Pocket pakadati. What's pocket pakadati? V'Hashem pocket asara. It's the concept of pocket is remembering that comes to Avram and Sarah Elokei Avram out of absolute love that's beyond any rational calculation.
Translated unconditional love.
Unconditional love, beautiful. You've been at the shiurim long enough. Very good. All right, listen, you're learning. You're learning. This is Salaya Pashut. Salaya Pashut. V'zeu shelo ye'eminu l'Moshe ba'amrei Hashem nirei elai af shamalem raya midas v'asaga. Moshe was seichel. So when Moshe says Hashem appeared to me, it's not a question if you believe the guy is honest or not honest. The pshat is to internalize it. To be a person could say I'm a shliach of Hashem. You could believe him, but it doesn't do anything to you. You don't find God in his words. That's the vart, because he's coming with das and asaga. Rak b'sham b'sham lekei Avram. Moshe says. Hashem says, Leich v'asafta zikni yisrael v'amarta lehem Hashem elekei aveiseichem nirei elai elekei Avram. And Yitzchak and Yaakov lehem peket pakadati. Heminu leishobchinas pocket. That's what they needed. Stam coming from Rayas and Das and Hasaga, it wouldn't work. What it comes from is that they realize that there's a Ru'usa Deliba. It doesn't have to fit in a perfect puzzle and everything makes sense and rational. So the person could accept the fact and make place for the fact that right now, if I'm just looking at one part of myself, I am absolutely in Egypt and I'm going to stay there. And it's going to come back an hour later and a day later and I shouldn't expect anything else. Don't try to repress it. Don't try to deny it. You know why? Because if you try to deny it and repress it, all you're doing is you're causing it to emerge in different places. It leaks out here and it leaks out there, and you have to invest most of your energy in making believe that it doesn't exist. Or you have to invest most of your energy in eliminating the pain from the fact that this does exist, and it's so painful, and you have to numb the pain. But what if you can accept it? And you can accept it with all the pain. I'm in Egypt. I don't have to deny it, I don't have to run from it, I don't have to repress it. I don't have to distract myself from the pain. And I also don't need this to turn me into a slave. Because that very moment is a Ru'usa Deliba, not because I'm a Chacham, not because I'm a Tzaddik, not because I'm refined, not because I understand, not because I'm righteous, because I'm a piece of God. I'm a piece of Him. A piece of Him, and every piece goes back to its Shordish. It wants its Shordish. And both exist simultaneously. That's what Yaakov and Yosef told them, this is going to be your Geula. And that's the key words, Pokoit Pakadati. Hashem said they'll hear that message, they'll know, they'll hear godliness, they'll be able to connect to it, they'll be able to relate to it. He's talking here about the spiritual Gulas Mitzrayim, which always comes together with the physical Gulas Mitzrayim. So when he says, what's your name? Hashem says, tell them, Ekesh l'chani aleichem. Aleph Yud. Why? Shebchinas Havaya. What's Havaya? Havaya is Yud Hey Vav Hey, which means Yahava. He creates from the word Hoya, Hoiva. Yahava, yeah. Mahava, Meloshin Mahava. Havaya is Mahava. The word Hoya, existence. He brings existence into the world. Shemahava Kol Ha'olamas. Havaya brings existence. It makes all the worlds be. It gives being and existence to all the worlds. Machmas Shemasigim. So what's the Havana of Havaya? Havaya is when every creature in the world comprehends it has a source, it has a creator, and it nullifies itself in the presence of its creator. That's what Havaya is. Aval b'chinas eka hulamaylam b'chinazu. Aleph Hey Yud K is therefore not Havaya. He doesn't say Shem Havaya. Shem Havaya is the understanding and the awareness that a person has that the whole world is divine. The challenge is, this is all very nice, but when the person is in Galus Mitzrayim, he sees nothing as divine. All he sees is filth and dirt and slavery and subjugation and problems. So when Moshe says they're going to ask me, what's his name? How do we relate to this God? You start talking to them about Yudke Vavke, redefining their perspective on themselves and existence, it may not be able to go in. What they need to hear is Pocket Pakadati. What is that name? That name is Aleph Hey Yud Hey. Eke Asher Eke. I am there with you. Like Rashi says, Eke Asher Eke. What's Rashi's Lashon? Eyemon B'tzara Zois, Eyemon B'shibut Shamalchis. I know you're in the dumps and I'm there with you. Just that, I'm there. I will be there with you. I'm there. That's all I ask. You should just know in there, I'm there with you. And therefore, at any moment, you could come up. The Baal HaTanya says, when a person realizes and starts behaving this way, who tikkun l'pgam bris? This is how you masaken everything connected to the bris. All challenges in this area. Why? Lefi her she'inyan shuva hu apolois ha'adam misharshay b'pgam bris v'kayotze boy u'tshuva hu shemeshiv nishmasei l'sharshay. What is tshuva? Tshuva means return. We are returning. Every person has a shayrish. You have a home. This is where you belong. When you're thrown away from it, you fall away from it, you become detached from yourself, from your true self. How does that happen? That's essentially what a life of dysfunction is, a life of sin, a life that's unhealthy, a life of deception. And especially, it happens in Pgam Bris. Pgam Bris are the intimate parts of life, which have tremendous powers and appeals, and a person over there could get so stuck in momentary distractions that give them pleasure, and that's what we do to numb our pain that we're separated. When I'm separated from myself, it's very painful. So what do? I need numbers. So you have a number called food. You have a number called alcohol. Not the one here on the table by the Chaf-Daled Teves, but the concept. You have numbers called gambling. You have a lot of numbers. I'm not going to go atu kireichel. I'm not going to go through every single number. The biggest number is issues that are connected to the bris. Because of its power in Kedusha, therefore it also has a power of numbness. So what does it do? It more and more detaches the person from themselves. What's tshuva? Meishiv nishmasei l'sharsha. You got to bring back the source, to the soul to the source. Here's the issue. When a person for years has become completely separated from their core through blemishing the bris, you talk to them about returning, they don't even know where to begin. They're so far, they have become such victims to this particular addiction, they don't even know where to begin. So therefore he says the whole thing, they all give up on themselves. It just never happens. They run here, they run there, they run to this place, this cave, this tikkun, this tilim. They have zgulas. Every zgula makes them more meyuish. Why does it make them more meyuish? Because you're not dealing with the core. He says, Aval al derech hanal, if you can internalize this maimer, lo yipel hanoifel klal. The noifel will never fall. Ki eina machmas tam v'das. He's not coming and explaining reasonably and rationally that he's a good, holy person. Rak achar kol ha'pchises sheyizboinem ba'atzma. He can accept all the pchises, all the negativity, all the lowliness. Mikol makom yesh le ru'usa deliber she'eina shaloi. He still has Rusa the lib, it's not his. As long as it has to be his, then who am I? I'm this, I'm a neufel, I'm not a neufel. The fact that he can accept that Hashem put into him Rusa the lib, it's like almost he says, I would love to sin, aber ich kann nicht. I would love to be not Jewish. It would be an amazing experience. I get it. I can accept that. Eino shaloi, it's not his. God planted himself into him. Says V'day l'meven. When a person could realize this, he'll realize he was never a neufel. If he's looking only on himself, avadi is a neufel. If he understands that where does Jewishness begin? It begins in the Ru'usa de Liba. It begins in the pocket pakadati. It begins in the Eyesh l'chani aleichem. Accept everything that exists in you. Vanish nespal. Don't lie, don't deny, don't run. Create a container for it and realize that there's something inside of you that is larger than all of that. And that's the ultimate tikkun, and that's why it begins in Parsha Shmos, which begins the Gulas Mitzrayim. How? Through the words Paket Pakadati Elekei Avram. Mashmoy, what's the name? The name is Eke Asher Eke. I'll tell you a story about the Baal HaTanya that's connected with this theme. When you hear the story at first glance, it seems it's a little like, what's the point? But really, the point is a profound point. There was somebody once sitting in front of the Tzemach Tzedek. Tzemach Tzedek was the grandson of the Baal HaTanya, his daughter's son. Rebbe Menachem Mendel of Lubavitch, whose mother was a daughter of the Baal HaTanya, Rebbe Tzendver Leah. She died for her father. She died very young for her father. And somebody was sitting in front of the Tzemach Tzedek, and he said he wants to tell him a story about his Zayda, about the Baal HaTanya, the Alter Rebbe. So he says that there was once a Jew who wanted to give the Baal HaTanya a gift. So what did he give him? He gave him a zilben nepushka fashmek tabak, a silver snuff tobacco box. And it was kesef tzoruf. It was beautiful, refined, expensive, pure silver. And it was made for tobacco to be able to, to shmek tabak. You know what Jews do Yom Kippur? Shabbos afternoon, there's tabak. So the Alter Rebbe takes it from him, and he says, afterwards he says, in Yiddish he says, so da ein Ever in Guf, was is nicht kein Baal Taiva. Darf man amich verstoppen mit Taiva. There's one limb in the whole body that's innocent, the nose. The nose doesn't have major addictions. Nobody ever comes to shul and says, last night I sinned with my nose, it was amazing. The eyes, the ears, there's other parts of the guf. The nose is mer weniger, and there's a reason for it. It's brought in Kabbalah, the Bnei Yissaschar says, because in the Chet Eitz it says that Chava, she saw the fruit, so the eyes. She listened to the snake, so the ears. She took the fruit, so touch. She tasted it. Doesn't say she smelled it. So the chush hareach remains from pre-Eitz Hadas. That's why Mitzvah Shabbos, we go out to the weekdays from Shabbos through smell, through psamen. That's why you'll see that the nose is not too corruptible. I mean, if you really try, you could get involved with your nose also. I'm not gonna start giving you ideas, but if you're desperate, there's things you could do with your nose also. Some interesting things too. But naturally, it's a psnish. So the Baal HaTanya said there's one Ever, there's one limb, was is nicht angestoppt mit Taiva. Darf man es euch anstoppen mit Taiva? What are we going to start smelling? He's going to start dealing with shmek tabak. So he tells him, so Yezeda took the cover of the box, at abgebrachen the deckel, he broke off the cover, and he used it as a mirror for his tefillin shorosh to be able to make sure that it's between his eyes. That's the story. So the Tzemach Tzedek interrupted this man when he said Yezeda at abgebrachen, Yezeda broke the cover. Tzemach Tzedek said, I'll say in Yiddish, the Zeda is nicht gewähnt shaykh zu brechen. Nicht sich und nicht a zweiten, afille nicht a doimem. My grandfather wasn't capable of breaking. Not himself, not other people, and not even a box, a silver box, a silver object, a lifeless object. Elamai, the box probably had a hinge. The hinge connected the cover, the lid, to the box. So the Zayda hat genommen the chut hamakasher. He took out the thread, the hinge that connected the two, so they were separated, so he could use it for a mirror. That's the mice. Now, the poor guy was telling a story. A stupid shmek tabak box. The Alter Rebbe broke off, big deal. It's not an issue of baltashkes. He didn't stam destroy it, he used it for tefillin. So it's not a problem of baltashkes. He broke it, in Hilchah Shabbos you have, mekalkel, almanas l'sakin. It has a kavanah of tikkun. Soiser almanas livners. It's used for a productive purpose. So what's the problem? And then he starts giving a whole ma'aseh. He didn't break himself. He didn't break others. Who's talking about breaking himself? He's talking about a tobacco box. Yeah. So the Rebbe, the Lubavitcher Rebbe, once told over the story, Chaf-Daled Teves, Chaf-Daled Teves, and he was masbid the Maisa. He said, the story has something was saying something very profound. What's tefillin? What's tefillin? If you look in Shulchan Aruch and Siman Chafein or Echaim, it says when you put on tefillin, you have to have kavanah. What's the kavanah of tefillin? Shibud halev and shibud hamayach. You remember from Yom Mitzvah? Shibud halev, you put tefillin on your arm, you dedicate your heart to Hashem. You put tefillin on your head, you dedicate your mind. Shibud halev, shibud hamayach. How do you make somebody subjugate? Shibud means avegeb, aveklegen, to subjugate. Avdus, shibud aguf. But shibud aleva hamayach, dedication of heart and mind to Hashem. How do you do it? Of course, it has to come through breaking. You have to break the person. The person has to break himself. You have to break your nature, break your character, break your personality, and then you could become a godly person. If you remain who you are, you'll be a per adam, a behema. So the Tzemach Tzedek said, the Zayd is nicht gewinnt shaykh zu brechen. Not himself, and not others. People who break themselves have to break everybody else too. People who don't break themselves, they don't break others too. Not even a dime, he wouldn't even break a box. Elamai, sometimes you have a hinge that connects you to something and therefore you can't fly. What you have to do is you have to separate the cord that you should be able to soar, and you shouldn't remain stuck and bound in shackles to the things that are connecting you. That's not called breaking. That's called liberating yourself. It's never about shvira. It's never about breaking. The moment you hear Yiddishkeit that breaks you, it's not Yiddishkeit. If you come out of a conversation with a teacher, with a parent, with a Rebbe, you come out of a conversation and you feel broken, you feel damaged, that's not Judaism. Yiddishkeit challenges you. It's not to break. You want to remove the thread that's holding you down and not letting you be free, that you should be able to turn it into tefillin. So even tefillin with the shibud alev hamayach, it doesn't come through shvira. It comes by understanding that sometimes, if I don't challenge myself is not myself. I'm completely bound up in chains to something, so you have to remove the hinges to be able to free yourself up. Like a bird, its wings are tied, its wings are clipped. You have to untie, you have to remove the bondage so that the bird can soar. You're breaking it, or you're actually liberating it, you're freeing it. That's why he said, the Zayd is nicht gewinnt shaykh zu brechen. The Yahrzeit, one of the Yahrzeitis of teachings of the Baal Shem Tov and teachings of the Baal HaTanya is that in Yiddishkeit there's never shvira. There's no breaking. You never break. You don't break yourself. You don't break your spouse. You don't break your children. You don't break. You don't have to break people. On the contrary, you make people wholesome. You make them realize their wholesomeness. Sometimes, what you see in Sfarim, I'll use the word shvira. What is it? It's not to break. It's to remove the chut hamakasher so that the person should be able to soar. The person should be able to fly. L'chaim, l'chaim. Wait, tzama lechona. Du fast da mein Sie ruft sich Sonne.
Sit down.
He was going to this mind. He was asking, how can I communicate to them the experience of Hashem, the experience of Gula? It wasn't a question of science. You understand? You get what I'm saying?
I do, but my question is,
How do I convey to them the experience of Hashem? The experience, not the information. They'll believe me, I'm a great Talmid Chacham, I'm a great scholar. How do I liberate them?
So I understand that, but it's a simple thing these days. Like, for example, someone might look at me and be like, you don't wear the job, so how could you have anything to do with Hashem? And it's like it's a thought from the outside. So I'm not making a judgment call on Moshe.
Fine, that's a person judging you, but they want it for themselves.
Oh, they asked him, that's why he came back to Hashem and said,
he was imagining. They're going to want to know, I'm looking for the name. You say, what's his name? I want to identify him. I want to be able to know him. Shmoi, the name, is how we know somebody. Right? If I don't know a name, how do I relate to him? We relate to people through the name. Tell me his name. I want to be able to relate to Hashem. He's explaining it on a spiritual level. Not that he was scared they're going to think he's a liar, that he's just making up a story. That's the pshat. He's going on a deeper level. They knew this is an honest man. They wouldn't doubt Moshe. They also knew who he was. His brother was Aaron. His father was Amram. He didn't come from a vacuum. But Vamrli Mashmoy Pocket Pakadati. This Nakuda, that's all.
So then why does he say the other point, or also the sign? Then if he knows
that's a separate thing. That's a separate thing. That Moshe said he's not worthy. That was more, I don't want to do this job. So. That's not for me. Yeah, that's already a set. This is not about him. This is about them. They're going to say, we can't relate to you. You're not God's messenger for us. You may be God's messenger, but not for me. You can't be my Rebbe. You can't be my Rebbe. You don't have a message for me. You're a good guy. You're a holy guy, but the Hasish mit mir. You don't have anything with me.
So it was altruistic. It's like he was like, okay, I want to help.
It's a whole different word. It's a whole different word. The Rebbe Maharash once asked the Tzemach Tzedek, was hat der Seide gewollt mit Darkei Chassidus und was hat gewollt mit Chassidus? What did your grandfather, the Baal HaTanya, want with the ways of Chassidus, and what did he want with Chassidus itself? So the Tzemach Tzedek told him, Darkei Chassidus is, as alle Chassidim sollen sein wie ein Mishpacha al pi ha-Torah ba'ahava. What my grandfather wanted to accomplish with the path of Chassidus is that all Chassidim should be like one mishpacha, like one family, according to Torah, with love. That's Darkei Chassidus. That Chassidim should experience each other like family, with ahava, al pi Torah. What did he want with Chassidus itself? He said Chassidus is chiyus. Chassidus is life, vitality. Areintragen a chiyus und balaichten alts. To bring in life, energy, and illuminate everything. Euch dem loy toiv. Even that which is not good. Men soll wissen von dem eigenem Ra wie is, auf Masaken seines. A person should be aware of their own struggles and challenges the way it is, in order to be able to repair it. So he said he wanted to know what his Zayda accomplished in two things. What he wanted with Darkei Chassidus and what he wanted with Chassidus itself. There's learning Chassidus, and there's living in the way of Chassidus. What did he want? So someone said that gave a brief synopsis. He said the living is that Chassidim are like family, mishpacha. Today when you say that, it's like, oh wow, that's not so good. Mishpacha you stay away from. Doesn't speak to his brother, doesn't speak to his sister, doesn't speak to his mother, whatever. So you have to be careful. But what he meant was a family that's like a real family, where there's an essential bond. You don't have to have a reason why you come home. You don't have to have a reason why you visit your mother, your father, your brother, your sister. It's family. You don't have to have a reason. Why'd you call? You need a loan. Why are you calling me? Well, I'm not supposed to see you. Why are you calling me? Mishpacha is the pshat, the place where you go and you don't need a reason. You don't need a justification. So Ru'usa de Liba. So Chassidim should be able to live together like one family, al pi Torah, with love, ba'ava. It's also a family is a place where you're not judged. You could just be an ideal family. It's a place where everyone is accepted. You don't need to be dressed a certain way, so to speak. You're not dressed, on every level. I don't only mean physically. It's a place where you're not judged. You could be open, you could be real, you could be honest. That's what he wanted with Darkei Chassidus. He wanted to create disciples, Talmidim, Chassidim, that can be this way with each other. This is the Derech Chassidus. And what does he want with Chassidus itself? That life should be filled with life. You can have life that's filled with the opposite of life. Either you're busy living or you're busy dying. Chassidus is chayes that everything should be with vitality and everything should be illuminated. Even l'chayre, the loy toiv, even that which is not good, is also a chiyus there. You should know exactly who you are. You should be able to illuminate, to shine a flashlight on it, to put it in perspective, so you could deal with it, you could repair it. And this mime is an example of it. So here you have there's people who ask today, what's Chassidus? What's Teres Baal Shem Tov? Is there a legacy of it? What's left over? What's all kugel and kishka? What is it? What is it? The way the garments, what you wear, what you don't wear. So here you have the Tzemach Tzedek described in 5 lines. What the Alter Rebbe, what the Baal HaTanya wanted to accomplish. What's pshat to live in the way of Chassidus, Darkei Chassidus, to create people that could communicate on this level to get like a mishpacha. Al pi ha'Torah ba'ava, that's how they should be together. And Chassidus says that there's life in everything. There's vitality in everything, not only in the good stuff, in everything that goes on. There's light, there's chiyus, there's an energy, there's a vitality. Everything has a place, there's perspective. You don't have to cut off any part of yourself. You don't have to mutilate. You have to light it up. You have to illuminate it. Sometimes you have to remove the hinges. And you should be able to be at Masakin and to know things the way they are, complete honesty. So now you understand when people sometimes come over and they say that they grew up with Chassidus and they didn't have a day of honesty. How sad it is. The whole Yahrzeit of Teres Baal Shem Tov is, what does he say? Men soll wissen von dem eigenem Ra wie is, auf Masakin sein es. If you don't know what is, if you're busy chopping angels, making believe you're something else, you can't talk about anything. Wie weiß man was the eigene Ra is? So this was said by the Tzemach Tzedek, who passed away Tofresh Chavav 1866. This wasn't said by somebody in Monsey in 2018. This is a quote from the Tzemach Tzedek, who grew up with his grandfather, with his Zayda. L'chaim, 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 l'chaim. There's a story they tell that the Alter Rebbe, the Baal HaTanya, had a son who succeeded him. He's known as the Alter Rebbe, Rebbe Dov Ber, the second Chabad Rebbe, and he was known for his tremendous dveikus. He could be involved in something and completely oblivious to his surroundings. He lived on the bottom floor in a home. There was an apartment. There were 2 floors in the home. His father, the Alter Rebbe, lived upstairs, and the Mittler Rebbe lived downstairs. The Mittler Rebbe had a baby, and he was babysitting. And the baby was in the crib. And the Mittler Rebbe was learning. It was at night. And the baby fell out of the crib. The baby was screaming, and the Mittler Rebbe didn't hear. He was sitting nearby. He was learning. He was so enmeshed, entrenched in his learning, he Pasha didn't hear. The Alter Rebbe was upstairs, and he heard the baby cry. He was also learning, but he heard the baby cry, so he came down, and he sees his son is learning, and the poor baby is on the floor. So the Baal HaTanya picked up the baby, and caressed the baby, and held the baby, and embraced the baby, and calmed the baby down for a while, until the child relaxed. And the baby fell asleep in his arms, and then the Alter Rebbe put him back in his crib, and he went back upstairs. The whole time, his son didn't realize what's going on. A while later, he called in his son, the Mittler Rebbe, and he gave him a shtickle drasha, a speech. We wouldn't call it a speech. He shared with him he shared with him his perspective. And he told them that whatever you're involved in life, even if you find yourself in the highest madregas, in the highest levels, in the middle of learning, and it wasn't stop learning as an intellectual pursuit, it was learning as an intellectual pursuit and as a spiritual pursuit, dveikus and Hashem through Torah. He says, if as a result of the learning, it causes, as the hersnisht when a kind weint, is a simen as the Torah teignisht. If as a result of the learning and the dveikus in Hashem, it's causing you to become deaf to the cry of a child, there's something missing in the Torah. If the Torah was real Torah, if you were really connected to God, it can't cause you to become deaf to the cry of a child. And he told him that never should it be in your life, should it happen in your life, that as a result of your tremendous involvement in Ruchnius and in Torah, you shouldn't hear what he called the Koil Yalad Beicha, the voice of the child crying. The Rebbe, the Lubavitcher Rebbe, told over the story that he heard from his father-in-law, the Rayatz, the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, who heard it from his father. It comes all the way down, back from the Mittler Rebbe who said over the story. That's how we know the story. He said it over to his family, and it came down to the Rebbe. The Rebbe said it over. So the Rebbe was always very medayik in the words of his predecessors. He said, why is it, listen to this, why was it negay in the story to say that the Alter Rebbe lived in the higher floor, in the top floor, and the Mittler Rebbe lived in the ground floor? How can you say that's just part of the story? He was here, he was there. He said, the Shver, my father-in-law, was medayik to say this detail. He could say they lived in the same houses. So the Rebbe said, in Tanya, based on Zoya, it's explained at length, there's two levels of Achdus Hashem. There's two ways in which we can understand Hashem's unity. Yichud Tata and Yichud Ilah. The lower level of unity and the higher level of unity. He said, when my father-in-law said, as the Alter Rebbe had gelebt in the Hecher Stock, the Alter Rebbe lived in the higher floor, what he meant was, not just physically on the higher floor, he lived in Yichud Ilah. Not the lower floor, not the lower level of Achdus, the higher level of Achdus. It says in Zay that's different between Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad and Baruch Shem Kveit Malchus Eloheinu V'ad. The message is similar, but very different. One is a higher level of unity, one is a lower level of unity. In the Maimorim of the Baal HaTanya, this theme of Yichud Eloh Yichud Atah is a very central theme. The difference between the higher level of unity and the lower level of unity and what each one means. Yichud Elah is one perspective. Yichud Atah is also a great perspective, but it's not Yichud Elah. And when the Shvatim told Yaakov, "Kashem she'em belibcha el echad, kach em belibeinu el echad," belibcha is Yichud Elah, and belibeinu is Yichud Atah. And that's why when Yaakov heard that, he said, "Baruch Shem Kved Malchusa Lo'elam Vad," which is Yichud Atah. Yichud Atah means that you live in the world, but you recognize that the whole world is really divine energy. It's nicht as an nidrik madrega. Not such a low level, it's a pretty high level. Yichud Elah is a completely different level of unity where you l'chatchila see everything as divine. There's no separateness whatsoever. So he said, Alter Rebbe had gewohnt auf ein hecheren Stock. He was in Yichud Elah. But nonetheless, if there's a child crying, he couldn't be deaf to that child crying. He couldn't. He could not be deaf. And this is what he was telling his son. Whenever there's a situation that Yiddishkeit, Ruchnius, Torah, Tefillah, Avodas Hashem, religion, Frumkeit, makes you become deaf to the voice of children crying physically, and even more than that, crying emotionally. Because remember that the tears that are not heard are much deeper than the tears that are heard. The tears that are heard are tears that can be articulated. The tears that are not heard are much deeper. Those sobs you have to listen to much more. Ashrei maskil el dal. Hashem shima bikoili, not shima likoili. It says in the Torah, not shima likoili, shima bikoili. You have to hear what's in the koil. If it causes one not to hear the koil yelad boicha, that means the person is disconnected. There's something off. I once heard a word from the Rebbe. He said by a Fabrengen, a sante word. The Rambam in Hilchas Avodas Yom Kippurim says, from the Mishnah in Yuma, the Kohen Gadol finished the whole Avodah Yom Kippur. What happened? Pashat Bigdei Zahav, he took off the golden garments of the Kohen Gadol. Lavash Bigdei Chayil, he put on the regular weekday garments that he wore when he wasn't in the Beis HaMikdash, and he went home. It says the nation would escort him. It says he left here, everybody would escort him, and Mitzvah Yom Kippur would go home. That's what he says in Mishnah. The Rambam brings it in Hilchas Avodas Yom Kippurim that the Kohen Gadol would go home. Now the Rambam is not a sefer of history. The Rambam is a sefer of halacha. So the Rebbe asked, what's the halacha that the Kohen Gadol went home Mitzvah Yom Kippur? Where should he go? Bowling? What should the Kohen Gadol do Mitzvah Yom Kippur? Should he go to a pizza shop? What should the Kohen Gadol do? Should go to Beis Medrash, make him a lava malka? What do you do at night? He finished Avodah Yom Kippur. You go home and a malamen, get home. Right?
He would celebrate that he came out for
That he taka did. They used to make a Yom Tov. But the Rambam brings Nilchas Avodas Yom Kippurim, and if he brings it there, it means it's a halach. It's not just a reality. Yeah, he finished the Beis HaMikdash. What if he wanted to go visit a friend? I mean, he can go visit a friend. If Dini has to go home, he went home because that's what people do at night. I mean, that's what you're supposed to do. At night, you're supposed to go home. Today's a lot of other alternatives. I know that, but yeah, I understand. Yeah, but Yom Kippur is Chaf-Daled Teves. He's saying he went to Fabrengen. Where did the Kohen Gadol go? So the Rambam brings it. That means it's a mashmos. It's a halacha. So he said it is a halacha. What's the halacha? The halacha is when you spend all day in the Holy of Holies, the hardest place is to go home. The hardest place is to go home. So the Rambam gives a halacha. The Mitzvah Yom Kippur, you got to go home. How do you know that the Kohen Gadol was in Kedusha HaKadoshim on Yom Kippur? Only if he can go home. If he can't go home, that means he wasn't in Kedusha HaKadoshim. That means he was on his own trip. He was on his own spiritual trip. How do you know? What's the litmus test? What's the Even HaBoichen that he was really Yom Kippur in Kedusha HaKadoshim? If he can go home. If he can take it all and bring it into the home. Bring it into the kitchen, into the dining room, into the family. And remember, at home he might not get the Kabbalah's Ponim that he gets in the Beis HaMikdash. At home he might come in and say, Rabbi Yid, there's garbage. Nemara is the garbage. He says, me? You know where I was today? Ich habe gespritzt the blood. Achas lamayla v'sheva lamata. Me? Yeah, you. It's not easy to go home. Who wants to? At home, you're not a celebrity. In the Beis HaMikdash, woo, the Kohen Gadol gate, a machaya with a pelt, with a fur coat, there were photographers. There was on all the websites, the WhatsApps. Can you imagine what was going on there with the WhatsApps? Mitzvah Yom Kippur. He sneezed, he didn't sneeze. He got more attention more than Rabashkin got. Maybe not, the weiß nicht. Tzarech Iyun. But he comes home. What do you think happens at home? There's no photographer at home. His wife doesn't stand taking pictures. She says, "Come on." So you don't want to go home. So the Rambam says a halacha. It's not stam he went home. It's a din. Mitzvah Yom Kippur, you have to go home. You have to bring it into your house. If you can't translate the transcendental sanctity of Yom Kippur into the life of home, there was something missing in your Yom Kippur. There's something inauthentic about it. There's a Chiddush word. The Gemara says, it's born in Shulchan Aruch and Hilchos Shabbos, Ein Kiddush Ella b'makom seuda, which means one of the halachas in Shabbos says, everybody knows that Yom Tov is you have to eat in the same place where you make Kiddush. So let's say I make Kiddush in Shul, and then I come home and I want to wash and have a meal. It's not good unless I started the meal in Shul. But if I just made Kiddush in Shul and I didn't eat bread or mezainis, and then I come home and I want to start washing, the Kiddush has to be in the place of the Suda. Sometimes people make Kiddush on the porch, and then they go to a basement, they go upstairs, a different room, a different section, you can't see, so you have to make Kiddush again. Unless you ate by the Kiddush, and then you're just continuing the Suda. So there's the reasons al pi halacha. There's two reasons in the Rishonim why ain't Kiddush ela b'makom suda. It's a din in the suda. It's a din in the Kiddush. Covered Shabbos. There's a Chiddush Shatayich ain't Kiddush ela b'makom suda. The only Kiddush that the Torah acknowledges is a Kiddush, a Kedusha, a holiness that permeates, it penetrates the place of the meal, the place of the eating. Sometimes you have a person in shul, he's very holy. By Nagdishach, or by Keser, or by Nekadesh, according to all Neschayos, by Averabba, by Avasalam, he closes his eyes, he lifts up both of his hands, and he screams, Kadosh, on top of his lungs. Kadosh! Then he goes into the office, he lies, he backstabs, he cheats, comes home, he hollers like a meshugana, hollers at his wife. In shul, he's with closed eyes, he's the tzaddik hadar. He's the holiest person. In the office, it comes to a business deal, a shark. Comes to his wife and children, suddenly the whole Kedusha is out the window. So the Torah says, Ein Kiddush ela b'makom suda. We don't care about Kiddush. Kiddush is only Kiddush if it's b'makom suda. If it's in the same place where you have the party. If the Kedusha doesn't permeate the party, if it doesn't permeate the feast, the suda, if the Kohen Gadol doesn't go home, it's all Yom Kippur, it wasn't Yom Kippur. In many ways, going home is more important than Yom Kippur. It's the going home that shows that it was a real Yom Kippur. So this is what Alter Rebbe was telling the Alter Rebbe, that if your Torah causes you to shut off your ears, to become deaf to the cry of a child, it is kin Torah nisht. There's something off in the Torah. It's more of a selfish journey of my own egotistical perfection. Sefel da'or Hashem. If you would have dveikus in God, then you would hear a baby crying. And if you don't hear a baby crying, then there's something off. So today we have a generation where there's a lot of children crying because they fell out of the crib. They fell out of a crib that holds them, that protects them. So they cry. And there's good people, holy people, that can't hear their cry, not because they're doing bad things, because they're doing good things. Because they're sitting and they're steiging, and they don't hear the baby crying. Not because they're bad people, fakert, because they're holy people, they're good people. The Baal HaTanya says that if Torah causes me to be deaf to a child crying, I have to revisit my Torah. I have to examine my Torah. They say, Shmaka Maisa, the Tzemach Tzedek was a Yossam. He was an orphan. He lost his mother when he was 2. His mother died very young, and it's a whole Maisa, how she died, why she died, and she made a condition before she died. She gave away her life for her father, for the Alter Rebbe, because she said there was a kitrug on him, and he's going to die, and she made a condition that he's going to raise her son. So after she passed away, the Alter Rebbe took the Tzemach Tzedek into his home, and he raised him as a child. So there was once that the Tzemach Tzedek was sitting on the Alter Rebbe's lap, Baal HaTanya's lap, and you could see from the picture his beard, the white beard of the Alter Rebbe, and he was caressing the beard, and he was saying, Zayda, Zayda, Zayda. You know, Zayda, like Tati, Zaydi. So the Alter Rebbe said, Vu is the Zayda, where is the Zayda? So he's pointing to the beard. He says, das is the Zayda, das is the bird from the Zayda. This is the beard of the Zayda. Where's your Zayda? So he points to the cheeks, to the face. He says, this is the Zayda, this is the Bekelach. So there's the back and the cheeks of the Zayda. Where's the Zayda? So he points to the eyes. He says, this is the Zayda, it's the eyes. The nose, the forehead, the ear, the arms, the legs, the abdomen, every part. The Alter Rebbe was saying, das ist the Zayda, das ist the Bauch von der Zayda, the hand von der Zayda, the fist von der Zayda, the cup von der Zayda, the head, the stomach, it's not the Zayda. Where's the Zayda? Where is he? Where's the Zayda? Somebody didn't say a thing. He was a little kid. He was 3-4 years old. He didn't say a thing. And it looked like the Alter Rebbe was victorious in this debate. He came out triumphant. He defeated him because he couldn't find the Zayda. He could find the beard. Where's he going to find the Zayda? Good. He gets off his lap and he goes to play. A little kid, he goes to play. His mom is like 3. Alter Rebbe goes to do his thing. Suddenly, Alter Rebbe hears a scream. Ah! So he comes running and he sees that Tzemach Tzedek has his finger stuck as though the door slammed on his finger and stopped his finger, and his finger got stuck inside the door. That's what it looked like. So he screamed, ah! So Alter Rebbe came running, was? Someone said the laughed. He said, "Das ist das Seite." Das ist das Seite. It was a joke. It was a play. Nothing happened. He made this whole shtick. So you should come on. Was? Das ist das Seite. But it's where is it? Where do you see the etzem? Where do you see the core? It's in the beard. It's in the eyes. It's in the nose. The connection, the rusa de liba, the dedication, the attentiveness, the presence, what they call ichpatiyut. Yeah, wie ruft man das bei euch? The poeten, ichpatiyut. Yeah, huh? What? What? The opposite of lo ichpatli. My ichpatli.
I once heard the origin of the word Zayd is Zayda.
Very good. They tell a Maisa. It was a Yid known as the Baal HaFla. HaFla is an acronym for Harav Pinchas Levi Ish Horovitz. He was one of the great Gaonim of his times. He was the rabbi of Frankfurt, the Av Bezdin of Frankfurt in Germany. He made a famous sefer, Haflon, Masech Ksuvas, Hamakna, and Kedusha. His svarim are well known till today. They're learned in the yeshivish world. He has a sefer Panim Yafis on Chumash. He was a big Gaon. He was a brother of the Rebbe Reb Shmelka of Niklasburg, the Baal HaFla, Reb Pinchas Horovitz, and his brother was Reb Shmelka. He was traveling once for a din Torah to take care of a dispute. And he was traveling to a city called Rovna. And he had to pass by Mezrich. Mezrich is in the Ukraine. So he heard a lot about the Maggid of Mezrich, even though he didn't come from that world, so he decided to check him out. He was mamish from the Goyim of the generation, the Baal HaFla, Reb Pinchas Halevi Ish Horovitz. So he goes to the Maggid, and he visits him, and he's unimpressed. He doesn't like what the Maggid, is a fine man, but it's not for him. Okay. He's leaving. He just wanted to check out the scene. The Maggid says, before you leave, I can ask you a favor. In Beis Medrash, in Shul, there's a Yid. He sits by the oven. He's there by the oven. There's an oven with wood to warm up the cold winter. He's by the oven over there. He's in Talis and Tefillin. He's also reading with them and learning. If you could speak with him for a few minutes and learning, I would appreciate it. If he was one of the Goyinei Hadar, it's fine. So he goes out of the Maggid of Mezrich and he goes into the Shul. And he goes over to the oven. And there's a Jew with Talis and Tefillin. The Jew was Reb Zusha of Anapale, the Rebbe Reb Zusha. He was uniquely humble. He was known as a very humble person. He was uniquely humble. And he was sitting with a Talis and Tefillin after davening and was learning Masechta Brachas. So Reb Pinchas Horovitz, the Baal HaFla, comes over to him and says, your Rebbe, the Maggid of Mezrich, asked, before I leave, I could speak to you in learning. He said, you must have heard wrong. I doubt he sent you to talk with me in learning. I'm not the right person. I'm a Pashta Yid, there's none to talk with me about. He says, no, he gave me the Simonim, you're the man. He says, I'm telling you sure you heard? It's not me. He says, let's talk in learning. What are you learning? He says, you see, I can't even learn a complicated Masechta. I'm learning Masechta Brachas. That's all I can learn. So he says, what are you learning? So he was learning a Sugya in Brachas. I think it's Mem Zayin. The Gemara says over there, Amar Reb Huna, Aron v'tisha mitztarfen. If you need a minyan, you have 9 people with an Aron Kodesh, so you have a minyan. Amalei Reb Nachman, v'chi Aron Gavrahu. And the Aron is a person. What's this idea that Tisha var? So Reb Nachman said it's not what he meant. He meant something else. It means there's 9 people, but it looks like there's 10 people. 10 people looks like it's 9 people. He didn't mean that. He says, that's what I'm learning. So the B'zusha tells the Baal HaFla, and I mamish don't understand the Gemara. I mamish don't understand. A man says, you need a minyan, you have 9 people in an Aron Kodesh, an ark. So Reb Nachman says, V'chi Aron Gavru, the Aron is a person. And what was Reb Huna thinking? With the question, Reb Huna thought an Aron is a person. He didn't know that a minyan is 10 people. He thought you could take a bookcase. You could take a bookcase and our encouragement becomes a minyan. V'chiyar and Gavru. What was Reb Huna thinking? Reb Huna also had a thought process. So maybe you can explain to me a question. Ahava min in Gemara, an initial thought in Gemara is also, it's not just the Gemara refutes it so it's nothing. You have to understand the initial ideas too. Ahava min in Torah is also Torah. So the Baal HaFlo looks at Reb Zusha and he says, I don't know. I don't know. So Reb Zusha says, I'll tell you my pshat. I'll tell you my pshat in Gemara. The Aron is not referring to the Aron, it's talking about a person. It's also a person. You have a person who's like an Aron. An Aron has in it all the Sifrei Torah. It's full of Torah. It's an Aron full of Torah. So of course that could be part of a minyan. Amalei Reb Huna, v'chi Aron Gavru. That makes you a person? Just because inside the Aron there's Torah doesn't make you a Gavra. It's two separate things. There's the books, and then there's the ark. The ark remains a dead, lifeless ark. In the ark, the Sifrei Torah, but the Aron bleibt on. The Aron Gavru. The Aron doesn't become a mensch. You can have a person, he says, who's a gon. He knows everything. But it's not a mensch. The Torah is not him. There's him, and there's the Torah. It's two separate things. He's not a transformed human being. He's not a godly human being. The Torah didn't permeate him. And even if the Torah permeated him, the externalities of Torah permeated him. The cheshbonis, the mathematics, but not the divinity of Torah, the Kedusha of Torah. Baal HaFlo says, I think I'm going to stay. And he became one of the greatest Talmidim of the Maggid of Mezrich, to the point that when the Maggid asked Alter Rebbe to write a Shulchan Aruch, so the first thing he wrote was Hilchas Pesach, and he showed it to the Baal HaFlo and to his brother Reb Shmelk, and they were the ones who pushed him very, very stark, the Akdama to Shulchan Aruch, to continue the Shulchan Aruch. So this is the Vort, how he explained in a very sophisticated and elegant way what the Maggid, what the teachings of the Baal Shem Tov were trying to, part of what they were trying to accomplish. But in this vein, on the next level, you come to the story about the Alter Rebbe had a friend, a colleague, whose name was Reb Chaikel of Amdur. Amdur is Aleph Mem Daled Vav Resh, A-M-D-U-R. It's a city in the Ukraine. And Reb Chaikel of Amdur was a great tzaddik. He was also a student of the Maggid and a friend of the Alter Rebbe. And he became a Rebbe, and after the Maggid passed away, as you know, all the Hasidic branches split up. Every student went to his own region, and he developed a philosophy and a shitta and a community based on his genre. The Maggid kept it all together. The Baal Shem Tov kept it all together. After the Maggid, it splintered into many different groups and different styles, different perspectives, even though it had common denominators. But you couldn't compare the shitta of the Chayz of Lublin to the Noam Elimelech, the Reb Zusha to the Baal HaTanya, the Baditchever, to the Koshnitzer Maggid, etc. So Reb Chaikel of Amdur had a chassid, a Talmud, and he was a neighbor in Shul. He davened near a Chabad chassid of the Baal HaTanya. The Chabad chassid of the Baal HaTanya once came to the Alter Rebbe on Yechidus, which means for a private audience, called Yechidus, and he started to complain. What was the complaint? A very interesting complaint. He said that his friend, Reb Chaikel Amdur's chassid, comes into davening, and there's a tremendous hislavus. There's a tremendous fire. He comes in a shakultzich, there's a passion. He opens up the siddur, and segate, the fire, segate fire. There's a burning blaze. And he davens with so much intensity and kavana, and it's amazing. And he says, I'm your disciple, I come in. And I don't have that fire. So I start learning. I start learning some chassidus to ignite the fire. In the meantime, I miss the minyan. I'm trying to get to something until I get up to a fire. I already missed the minyan, and it takes a long time, and the fire is never so intense, and it comes with a lot of other things. And I look at this friend of mine, the Chaikel's chassid, it's brennt a fire. He tells the Alter Rebbe, it's brennt a fire. And essentially what he was saying is, maybe, you went wrong with us. Like, maybe these guys, they got a better system. It's an interesting thing. I heard this from Rabbi YY Jacobson. So the Alter Rebbe, he went into somewhat of a spiritual trance. And then he came out after a few minutes. And the Alter Rebbe used to speak, I don't know if you know, even in the weekdays when he would speak to people, he always spoke with a niggin. Everything he said, he had a special melody. There's a few things that were given over throughout the generations with the melody in which he said it, a few different things. So this person kept on saying that the chassid of Reb Chaikel, brennt, he's on fire, and I'm not. I'm like a log that, you try to get the log on fire by camping, you till 4 in the morning, till you fall asleep, right? And you bring more kerosene and more kerosene. I'm the log, I'm not on fire. So the Alter Rebbe looks at him after a few minutes of dveikus, and he says, I'll say in Yiddish, he says, brennt, Chaikel brennt in und mir willen, als wir soll allein brennen. He's burning. He's not burning. Reb Chaikel is burning in him. And we want, he didn't say I, we want that you should burn on your own. What was it? Well, Alter Rebbe was telling him something very deep. Reb Chaikel was a big tzaddik. There was a machloikas. I don't know if call it machloikas. There was a debate in the first generations of Chassidus. What's the function of Chassidus? I don't know if you're familiar with this. This was a very big debate. On one side stood the Alter Rebbe. On the other side stood many of his friends. And these were all Kedusha Yalim, big tzaddik. They had a debate. Some of them felt that the Alter Rebbe was betraying, if I could use those words. He was not betraying, he was derailing a little bit Chassidus. It was not the derech of Baal Shem Tov. Why? They said the Baal Shem Tov came to the world to ignite souls. Baal Shem Tov came to the world to bring in nuclear energy, to create electricity, to create passion. How? By revealing the neshama of the Jewish people. And that's why the tzaddik was such a central figure, because the tzaddik was somebody who was in touch with his soul, and when the chassid connected to the tzaddik, he learned with him, he davened with him. The main thing is he went to him, and he felt connected to him. The light of the Rebbe helped the chassid find his own light. It's like when you have a big bonfire, the little sparks become submerged in the bonfire. That's where they would come, and they would farbrengen, and they would daven, and they would dance, and they would sing. And the ecstasy that the tzaddik experienced when he davened, and when he learned, and when he had his tish, this rubbed off. It rubbed off on the disciples when they were there, and even when they went home, they carried that faith, and the warmth, and the camaraderie, and the passion. Alter Rebbe had a different shitta. Was heißt? His shitta was that everybody has to understand, as much as they can, of course, everyone is different, but as much as they can, people have to understand the yisoidus of shittas HaBaal Shem Tov. And that's why you look, the contemporaries of the Alter Rebbe have at most one sefer, and many of them didn't even write them. And they're little vertlach. On the Parsha, Bereshis, you'll have a paragraph, 5 lines, 10 lines. Alter Rebbe, most of his guys have one sefer, maybe 2 svarim. Maybe 2. The Rebbe has 30, 40 svarim. Besides the Tanya and Torah, look at the Torah. And his Maimarim went for hours, and he would explain things. And if you learned, some of you learned the Maimarim, every concept he explains at length by Riches. Maimarim Admir Azok and Haktsarim actually here are similar to the Maimarim of his colleagues, which he said in the early years, before he started to be Mayrich so much. You could see there's more fire here, and it's more brief, it's more concise. And they told Alter Rebbe, what are you intellectualizing? What do you want people to become intellectuals? This is not a derech. He had a friend, Avram Kaliska, was a student of the Maggid. He writes him a letter. He says, you know what your problem is? Miroiv hashemen nichba ha'or. You put in so much oil, you destroy the fire. You put in more oil, there's no fire left. You drown the fire. You need fire. The main thing is fire, passion, ecstasy. When they came to the tzaddik, they were on fire. And you're dulling the fire by explaining so much. You take, for example, the Tanya. What's the uniqueness of the Tanya? The Tanya is not a sefer written on the Parsha, not a sefer written on Yom Tif. It's not a sefer of Vertlach. It came to explain in a systematic, organized, cohesive, encyclopedic way what is the shita of Chassidus on life. It doesn't start with a word in the Parsha Diuk. It's a system. What's the system of Judaism in this perspective of the Baal Shem Tov? A program for life. That's what the Tanya is. Nobody did that. Nobody even thought of doing that. That wasn't their thing. They were here to lackeren Yiddish Herzer, lackeren Yiddish Neshamas. The Avram Kal says, I saw Tanya Layutav Beinoni, is a Sefer HaSeichel, too intellectual for me. He even writes a pasuk to him, Parshas Emer, Ubas Koyen Kiseichel Liznois Ba'esh Tisarif. It says in Zoya that Koyen is Chachma. Bas Koyen means the child of Chachma. You know what the offspring of too much intelligence is? Kiseichel Liznos. You go to Zdus. Says you think too much. Never happened that to anybody? You think too much and you're done. Kaput. Bas Koyen, you know what the daughter of too much Chachma is? Seichel Liznos. She goes, she becomes a Zayna. You know what the tikkun is? Ba'esh Tisarif. Fire. Fire, fire, slavos, passion, ecstasy. Not systems, not explanations. There's kein line in my morim explaining oilam is soiviv, memale, yartziet, bria, nefesh, ruach, neshama, yichudei lo, yichudei tatoy, shtalshalos, tzimtzum, after. Leave me. Nobody needs this. This is a few Kabbalim need to know this. But Alter Rebbe persisted. He insisted. So he could succinctly articulated what his shitta was to this person. Brennt, chaykel brentena. Mir willem is all allein brennen. What is he saying? If I want to light a bonfire, I want to light a candle. I hold the match to the candle. As long as the match is by the candle, the fire burns. Sometimes you take away the match, there's no candle left. Like the Gemara says, Rashi brings, Shetehei shal heves oila me'elehu. Even when I take away the match, it burns on its own. You put kerosene or you put newspapers into a bonfire, you remember? In camp. And it's a beautiful fire for around 45 seconds. You want to get the log on fire, it's much harder. This chassid, it's a gewaldige madrege. He wasn't being mevatalit. He was just explaining. This chassid was so dedicated to his Rebbe that the fire of Reb Chaikel could burn in him. Now that's no small thing. The fire of your Rebbe could burn in you in a regular Wednesday morning shachris. Thursday morning, you walk into shul 7 in the morning, and Reb Chaikel's fire burns in you. When you say Matayva, when you say Adonai Lam, when you say Hoidu Baruch Shama, pretty good. It's not, it's nicht zu abmachen. Brennt, Chaikel brennt in him. Reb Chaikel is on fire, and he's so connected to Reb Chaikel. Reb Chaikel is burning in him, burning through him. He says, Mir willem is allein brennen. What I want is that you have to burn on your own. You need to find your fire within your own heart, within your soul. You have to find your own Rusa de Liba. Now that's a whole different path. That means that the whole Shittas Baal Shem Tov has to become yours, individually, personally. It has to be your fire. We live today in a time where you could see very well the difference. 200 years ago, Alter Rebbe passed away, Tofko Fayin Gimel, how many years ago was that? Reisha in Gimel, Shina in Gimel, Ayin Dalare in Hey, and Vava in Zayin in Ches. Huh? 205 years ago exactly. 205 years ago, I'm not sure you could, I'm not saying no, but I'm not sure you could see so clearly the distinction between the two paths. You know why? Because you had living people like Reb Chaikel and others, that you can go to them for a Shabbos, for a Yom Tov, and there was such an authentic fire, there was nuclear energy, and it affected you. Unless you were blind and deaf and dumb and oblivious and cruel and sadistic and plugged and closed up and metumtum, mamish verstoppt, even verstoppt, it wouldn't help, but you really verstoppt through and through. There's so much electricity, there's so much fire, you got to get affected. Comes 205 years later, And people are looking around and say, what's chassidus? There's still chassidus. What is it? What is it? Kugel? Sushi? Used to be kugel, now it's sushi. What is it? A kapote? A streimel? I know not this hat, but a streimel, a frak, a bekische. What is it? A gartel? What is it? What you look like? What is the essence of it? What is it? A culture? Was it a certain community? So it's all part of it, but what is the essence of it? Who is the Zayda? I want the Zayda. Not the beard, not the eyes, not the nose. What's the message of the chassid? What is it? I don't have to tell you, hundreds of thousands of chassidim don't know the answer to this question. They'll tell you the nose, the eyes. We're not allowed to have this. We wear this, and we wear these types of sheitlach, these types of spitzlach, these types of hats, these type of whatever. We do these things, which is all good, all good. Kol nada pashta, every kehillah has its sacred customs and traditions, v'chuli v'chuli. But that's Zol Zion. It's even the eyes and the nose. Zol Zion. But who is the Zayda? So when you have a generation like that generation where Yitaka had a lot of fire bombs, so there was a debate. It comes now 200 years later. So here you see. We live in a time that people love being dependent on other people. People don't like taking responsibility for their own lives. We like blaming our problems on other people, and we like depending on other people. You know why it's easier? It's not easy to be free. Moshe had to convince the Jewish people to go free. You know why? We say we want to be free, but we don't always want to be free. You know why? Because if you're free, you have nobody to blame. The moment you become a free person, who are you going to blame? Azoy, you can blame the mama, the tata, the shvige, the vibe, the shver, the rebbe, the menal, the mechanech, the rebbe, the mora, the mechanechas, the shatchen, the shatchonis. They all destroyed your life, and that's why I'm a victim. Baruch Hashem, la'olam v'od, I'll be a victim. The moment I tell you you're free, you're free. You can take off your chains. Oh, who am I going to blame? Who am I going to blame? You need to blame somebody. As much as we say we want to be free, we don't always want to be free. There are certain, I hate to say this, there's certain advantages to slavery. Psychologically. And sometimes more than that. Tell me what to do, and I'll do it. One of the biggest miracles that people don't realize with Reb Shalom Mordechai is that when you see him speak, or you watch him on the WhatsApp the videos, you don't see that he was in prison 8 years behind bars, really behind bars. Usually when somebody was 8 years in prison, you see it on their face. They have to adjust. It's not easy to adjust. There's people who are in prison for 2 decades, they come out, they take their lives. They can't do it. It's a crazy transition. So I asked him, he came here, so I asked him, I see there was no transition. Like somebody texted me the first day, make sure he goes to therapy. They right away in America is the Chaltz therapy, right? So I asked him, I said, you need therapy? He didn't know the last 8 years therapy became so popular. Everybody's going to therapy. If you're not going to therapy, what's wrong with you? You're normal, it can be. In your yeshiva, how'd that happen? So I told him, Kataka, you may be the only one who doesn't need therapy because you haven't been around for 8 years. If you would have been around, you would probably need a lot of therapy. But he didn't need a transition because a part of him wasn't in prison. A part of him wasn't in prison. How did I get into him? Yeah, to be free is not so easy. It's nice, I want to be free. Really be free means I have all the power. It's bchira, it's all me. I have all the power, it's all in me. Don't say my wife, this one, that one, my child, my this, parnot. It's all me. It doesn't mean everybody around you is a saint. Somebody once said, just because I'm paranoid, it doesn't mean the whole world is not trying to kill me. I'm talking paranoid and they're trying to kill me. Something's Satan. But it means the buck stops here. That's not so simple. This is also true in Ruchnius. People love running. They love depending on somebody. And it's good. We all need people to look up to be inspired from, to learn from. But tachlis, is you have to find God within yourself. You have to find truth within yourself. And for this, the Alter Rebbe had Mesiras Nefesh. And that's why he wanted to explain Chassidus. He wanted people should learn and understand. Every person according to their capacity. But every person according to their capacity, it should be able to go into them. To go into you means you have to understand it, because when you understand it, it can affect your animal soul. Once it affects your animal soul, then the log starts burning on its own. And once the log starts burning, then the fire doesn't go out. Then you could put the person in a lot of different circumstances, and the fire will continue to burn. Shalom Mordechai's mun and betachin didn't come from a vacuum. The chain smoker, as I told him, a chain smoker butcher from Iowa didn't become a tzaddik hador overnight. It's the hashpah of the Alter Rebbe. It's the hashpah of the Alter Rebbe's chassidus. It's the hashpah that makes things real. It makes it pnimiyisdik. It's not a coincidence that from the Alter Rebbe's Talmidim, 7 generations later, people can go out to different corners of the world where there's no community, there's no environment, and they can make a spiritual revolution there. It's not up as a new thing that the Lubavitcher Rebbe was a social activist. It's all the same nekuda. If my whole chassidus and Yiddishkeit is chaykel brent in them, the moment you take away the match, I'm done. The moment you take away the mikveh, the chaluptzes, the shalashudas, the kishke, the negunim, the environment, there's nothing. What am I? You take a guy, you put him in Thailand, hope that he remains ahal bayit. Here you take young light with a husband and a wife, send them away. Would the Rebbe have a achrayus to do such a thing? You care about the whole world, you mafka your own community. Who does this? After a Holocaust? Everybody told him, you build up, everybody build you. If this one builds a borough park, Williamsburg, Lakewood, Bnei Brak, build up your own kehillah. No. The Rebbe once said at a Fabrengen, he says, Ich darf nicht mehr wie ein Minyan. I'm happy with 9 people, alles on game. Which Rebbe says that? Everybody may will, but you want bleachers. He says, Ich darf ein Minyan and alles on game. He said, but Shabbos Parshas Pekude once. Ich darf ein Minyan, alle kennen game. 9 people, that's what you do. You have a lot of charisma. So one Indian is the kavanah is to change the world, and you have so many Jews who are assimilated. He wanted to help every Jew. But how can you demand this? You can only demand this from people if Yiddishkeit is internalized. If it's not internalized, if it's not my fire, the moment I leave the environment, I lose it. But even those of us who are zoiche to live in beautiful, frum, chassidish, Torah communities, whether it's in Monsey or wherever you live, it's the same nekuda. Because you could live in a beautiful community, but there's no inner fire. So meloif tahem, meloif tahin, everybody is busy with WhatsApps. Why is everybody, something comes up, they right away look, what? People are looking to connect, and they hope that this WhatsApp is going to give them God. So when people go into bookstores and they look for title, they think this book is going to answer their questions. Deep down, people are hoping that this message is going to bring healing. No WhatsApp in the world is going to bring you healing. Maybe my sheer WhatsApp, I don't know. With all due respect to all the WhatsApp groups here. I'm not being mevatel it. I don't have it, but I'm not being mevatel it. Okay. But the point is, you have to find what's up in you. You have to be able to look and say, what's up here? What's up? What's up here?
There's no app for that.
There's no app.
You have an idea now.
That goof he'll make into an app. That goof he'll make an app. Okay, so this one runs to this teacher, this Rebbe, this Niggin. It's all good. Entertainment is fine. People need distraction from pain. I get it. It's better than some other addictions in the world. Sure. Somebody asked me, I was in Philadelphia a few years ago, I was giving a lecture, there was a television there, a television crew. So they asked me, what's your opinion, this is years ago, about Michael Jackson and Madonna studying Kabbalah? So I said, listen, if it keeps Michael Jackson away from other things, sure. You know what I mean? It's Kabbalah like whatever, but Kabbalah. But if it's keeping him busy and away from other things, oh, sein. Nicht gefährlich. But a person needs to be able to find everything inside. The Alter Rebbe had a Talmud, the Banas Tashali says a word. Gehenim is called Sha'ol Tachtas. That's the Lashon. Sha'ol Tachtas. Literally, Sha'ol Tachtas means the abyss. Sha'ol comes from the word Sha'ol, borrowed. What's Pshat? You go to Gehenim. It doesn't happen next world. It happens in this world. It means you live a borrowed life. Sha'ol, you live a borrowed life. You don't live your own life. Why do you live a borrowed life? Tachtas. Because you think you're below. So you have to borrow. Who borrows money? Somebody who doesn't have. If I'm tachtas, if I'm under, if I'm down under, I have to borrow. Let me borrow your life, your life, your life, your life. It was an einikel of the Baal Shem Tov. Was krechshes to Rabbi YY? It was an einikel from the Baal Shem Tov, the Degel Machane Ephraim. He's buried near Mezhebush, Moshe Chaim Ephraim of Sedlikov. He's buried in Mezhebush, near the Baal Shem Tov, if you're ever there. So he says, by the Schneur, Moshe sees the Schneur burning, and it's not being consumed. The bush is burning, and it's not being consumed. It says, Asura nove eres amara hagodla zamadua lo yiver asna. So Hashem says, Shalna lechem me'araglecha ka'amokem ashata oimedel of admas kodesh. Take your shoes off your feet, because the place that you're standing is holy. So he explains the whole story. Al pi nister, al pi chsidis, al pi ruchnis. I just want to say one nekuda, because it's one of the Yahrzeit of Tanya. Moshe Rabbeinu sees the fire. Whose fire? A Jewish fire. The Slavus von Ayidisha Neshama, Chelek Elakamimal. But suddenly he sees Hasnei Nenu Ukol. You can't get rid of the thorns. The thorns, which represents all the things that bother you. You know a thorn? You have a beautiful rose, and then you have a thorn, so shtach darain. Yeah, you're middle of Shemoneh Esrei, you think you're connecting to God, right? You remember? And then suddenly, you're like, that was fast. You just started Ad Nesvasai Tiftach, you're like, wow. It was like a Concord. That was fast. There was once a mashpi with Fabrengen, so he looks at the Bachman, I don't understand, how do you say Yil Erotzen Imrei Fi Vehegen Libi Lefanach? How do you have the chutzpah to Yil Erotzen Imrei Fi when you didn't even think about anything you said? He said, when we say Yil Erotzen, we are thinking. It's all bizarre. It's all one thing. So he says, so there's thorns. The thorns are all the things in life that prick you. Literally, they prick you. They bother you, they perturb you, they disturb you. So he says, Madua lo yiver hasna. Why could the fire never get rid of all the thorns? Why can't the fire take over the sna? Asura nova era. Rashi says, Asura mikan lehiskarev l'sham. I have to go away from here and find what's up. To be able to figure out, why is this sna manishtana? Hasneh hazeh mikol hasnehs, that it won't get on fire. So Hashem calls out and he says, Moshe, hineni, shalna lecha me'araglecha, ki hamokem ashata oimedel of admas kodesh. Take your shoes off your feet, because the place on which you're standing is holy. Your whole conception in life is that you have to have the fire consume the thorns, and then you'll achieve Kedusha. That's an error. Take your shoes off your feet and respect the place upon which you're standing now. Kedusha doesn't begin tomorrow. Doesn't begin in a year. It doesn't begin when you graduate all your problems and you metamorphosize yourself from a caterpillar into a butterfly. You don't find God tomorrow. You don't find truth tomorrow. You don't become happy tomorrow. You don't achieve serenity tomorrow. The place upon which you're standing right now is sacred. Your challenge and your opportunity is to be able to find your relationship with God right now, right here. And for that, you have to take your shoes off your feet and respect the place upon which you stand right now. Are you asking me the place that I'm standing right now? It's a horrible place to be. That's what the whole Maimah said. No. Yes, the place to which you stand has thorns and a lot of thorns. But you have to understand that holiness doesn't mean there's no thorns. Holiness means there are thorns and there's a fire. And the two don't cancel out each other. There's thorns, and the thorns refuse to get burnt, and they refuse to be consumed in the fire, and yet the fire is a genuine divine fire. And you don't serve God by going away from your life and stepping into somebody else's shoes. That's called Chaf-Daled Teves. That's a life of purgatory. You serve God by finding Hashem in your life, with all of the thorns, with all of the issues going on. You create space for them, and you can understand that at that moment you can choose to also look at the fire that's burning and embrace the values that really matter to you. In other words, you never have to cease to be you and emulate somebody else in order to become a Oved Hashem, because that doesn't work. That's external. That's mimicking. That's emulating. The old saying, right? We're all born originals, and many of us, or most of us, die as copies. That's what Chaf-Daled Teves is. You're Sha'ol. This is a big Yahrzeit, but especially by the Baal HaTanya, this was a Yahrzeit HaYahrzeitis. That everything is about Pnimius. Vu binich, how much is it mine? I don't chap angels somewhere else. It has to be mine. Mine means it's my mind, it's my heart. It becomes part of the human condition. When it becomes part of the human condition, it remains eternal. Because if it really permeates you, if it penetrates you, then you could be here, you could be there, and you're never defined by your circumstances. Your circumstances are defined by you. There are people who are defined by their circumstances. If the circumstances are fine, I thrive. The circumstances are lousy, I'm gone. When things are internalized, then you define your circumstances, because you're living from within. You're not waiting for feedback. You create an environment. You create an energy. So that's what he told the Baal HaFlah. V'chi arin gavru. You could be an arin, and you have everything inside. It's not you. It's not you. It's an ishkin gavra, it's an ishkin mensch. Two separate things. It's an information. Internalization, that's a real relationship. And every person, according to their capacity, is capable of internalizing. But for that, you need the Tanai, what the Alter Rebbe once titled, Va'avadatem meheira. In Krishma it says, Va'avadatem meheira. So literally it means, you're going to perish fast. He said, Va'avadatem meheira. You have to lose the instinct in life that everything has to be done meheira. Schnell. You got to get rid of that. We have an expression, knock it off. Knock it off. Meheira. There's always preparation for the next thing. Right? Somebody once said, my mother always served leftovers. We only had leftovers. We're still looking for the original. So it's always the next. Va'avadata meheira. Get rid of the meheira. Where you are, connect. It's now. The power of now. Va'avadata meheira. You have to get rid of the instinct, because meheira is always external, always chitzonius. L'chaim. The Santa Maisa, not from an old generation, from this day. I went to be Menachem Oval once, somebody. There was the Kapishner Rebbe. Remember the Kapishner Rebbe? So he had a daughter. Her name was Rebbetzin Chavela Gurari. She married a Chabadsker, the Zalman Gurari, who was a Yida, Oisher, Choshev, a Yida, Talmud Chacham. So when she passed away, A few years ago, she was an elderly lady, the Capuchin Rebbe's daughter. So I went to Menachem Avil, the family. So her sitting with her son. His name is Rabbi YY Jacobson. He's from Montreal. So he says, I'll tell you something that happened once with my father. His father was very paranoid. And I don't know if you're familiar with the tzavos of Rabbi YY Jacobson. Rabbi Jacobson said to do things, and he was very careful. Not to polish your shoes the day you're leaving. One of the tzavos of Rabbi YY Jacobson is that once you leave your house, you shouldn't go back. If you're going on a trip, until you don't come back from the trip, you forgot something, you left the house for fun. So it's a from Rabbi YY Jacobson. So he says, my father once went on a trip, and he comes to the airport, and the plane was delayed, and it was canceled for the night. So the people in the airport and the airline offered vouchers for a hotel right near the airport. Kennedy or LaGuardia, they'll stay, and in the morning they'll wake up 6, 7, and take the first flight out. My father thought to himself, why should he sleep here? He can go back home. He lived in Crown Heights. So he could wake up in the morning, the mikveh, he had a shir gemara in the morning, he davened with a minyan, and then he'll go on the airplane. What does he used to wake up early? But then remember Tzavav Rabbi YY Jacobson. Once you left the house, can't go back. So he has to stay in a hotel. He didn't want to miss Tefillah B'tzibur. But it's Rabbi YY Jacobson, Tefillah B'tzibur, the chametz for the Rabbanan, Rabbi YY Jacobson. But for it, Tzavav Rabbi YY Jacobson, it's a sakana. He said, my father was so he was so scared, he's not going home. But he really wanted to go home. He didn't want to stay in the hotel. So those were the days of the public phones. Aleim Hashalom, Zechronam Levracha. Tahay Nishmasam Tzidid B'Tzorah Chayim L'Chayim L'Ma'am. I don't know if anybody, some people don't know what I'm talking about. There used to be a musig of a public phone. You took a quarter, you took a dime, you took a nickel, you put it in and you called. A Simon, yeah. Huh?
Depends how old you are. Some remember
Depends how old you are, yeah. Depends. So he went over, the airports had public phones, and he goes over to the public phone, and he calls up, the Lubavitcher Rebbe had a secretary, his name was Rabbi Chadakov, Rabbi Chaim Mordechai Isaac Chadakov, Olav Shalom. He had his number, secretariat, the office of the Rebbe. He calls up Rabbi Chadakov, and he tells him his dilemma. He's here at the airport, on a plane, they want to put him up in the airport, in a hotel, he wants to go home, so he could daven in the morning, have a shir. Tzavav Rabbi YY Jacobson, what should he do? So Rabbi Chadakov said he's going to try to ask the Rebbe, and he'll get back to him. You should give him the number on the public phone. There's always a number, so you could call back. So he said he should wait for 10 minutes. He's going to try to call him back in 10 minutes. They gave him the number, he hung up. 10 minutes later, he hears the phone ringing. So he picks up the phone, and Rabbi Chadakov, the Rebbe's secretary, is on the phone. He says, he used to say in Yiddish, hat a Gelegenheit, fragen beim Rebbe soll gesund sein. I had an opportunity to ask the Rebbe your question. Had the Rebbe gesagt, this the son told me he heard from his father. So the Rebbe said, I should tell you, sollst lernen a Perek Tanya. You should learn a whole chapter in Tanya. Was beschas me lernt a Perek Tanya, wird man doch ein anderer Mensch. Kennst du heimgehen? Shas, you learn a Perek in Tanya, you become a different person. So then you can go home. That's what he said. I was sitting there, I was quite startled. He tells me it's not over. The next day, he went on his trip, whatever. He gets a call from Rabbi Chadakov in the middle of the day, the next day. The Rebbe asked me to find out what happened. What happened in actuality? Did you go? Did you not go? Why did the Rebbe want to know? The Rebbe asked me to tell you, was gesagt nachten, habe ich nicht gemeint kunzen. Ich gemeint kipshutei mamash. What I said yesterday, I didn't mean as a cute little joke, cute little word. I meant it literally. In other words, Rabbi YY Jacobson says the person who leaves the house can go back. What if it's not the same person? You can go into my house, it's not a problem. So what if I am not I anymore? Or there's a new I can go back home.
So now who is going to go on the trip?
So you want to know if you need a new Kedusha. That you'll discuss with the therapist.
How and Jackie will go on.
So you want to know where the ticket is.
Jackie Mason, that's all your daughter says after the therapy is another dimension. That's everything.
Dude, so that's all. So I asked the bitch Meir, I said, "You can't tie a tap." I knew your father. Father was a good guy, but he wasn't in the madrega of Adam Arishan Kaidam Achet. He wasn't a saint. He was a good guy. He was a serious Jew. He was a chashav yid. But he had like every person has. So he said that's the point of the story. The Rebbe wasn't talking about big neshamas, hoiche yidden. They opened up a Perek Tanya and the neshama went on fire. He wasn't talking to that person. He was talking to a person who was a yid who lived in this world with 2 feet in this world, who made a lot of money, who knew what a couple of dollars means, who knew how to be stubborn, who knew how to put up a fight. I mean, if you knew Jimmy, if you knew Zalman he was a grounded man, and he had his idiosyncrasies. Let's put it that way. But the point that Rebbe was making was that when a yid learns a Perek Tanya be'emes, what says be'emes? Be'emes means with sincerity, not stam, like the pamphlets in shul. Sincerity means adaita de nafshe, with attentiveness. Not copying somebody else, copying himself, but he tunes in. And some of it he won't understand, some of it he won't relate to, some of it. But there's a dent that's created. And that dent is transformational. The dent may be a little dent, but it's not the same person anymore. And that's a metzius. That's not a theoretical, abstract reality, talking about neshamas who never sin. We're not talking about those souls. We're talking about souls, people sitting around the table who make mistakes, who stumble, who have setbacks, who have struggles, who have challenges, and sometimes who end up making very big mistakes or made big mistakes. We're talking about the ordinary person who has, like they say in Yiddish, a mensch is not a mensch, and a moldas euchest. A human being is only a human being, and sometimes he's not even that. We're talking about that person. When that person opens up a Tanya and learns a Perek from the Baal HaTanya, but he learns it with emes. What do I mean with emes? With his own emes. With sincerity, with attentiveness, with a willingness to listen to what the Alter Rebbe is teaching him. With a willingness. Not with a kavonis of Olam HaTzilas of Malachi Elyon and Gan Eden Elyon. No. With a willingness, he wants to listen. He's open, he's attentive, and he does it adaita de nafshe, with a pnimius, with a sincerity, according to his capacity. The person after the Perek is not the same person like before. It doesn't mean he comes out with wings flying. That's not chassidus. It doesn't mean he comes out without a Yetzirah. It doesn't mean he comes out and Shviga calls him and says, "Here's not in $300,000 that I owe you." And it doesn't mean that everything is changed. It does mean that there's something, a little dent, a permanent dent that remains, even in everything. A shinui. It's a shinui. And that shinui creates a psak din that Rabbi Yehuda Chassid Savah doesn't apply to him. It's a shenish dezelbe mensch. The person who left the house is not the person who came back from the house. This I heard from the son of the Baal HaMaisa. That's the answer to your question, Abshalom.
Thank you so much. When are we starting to
His Beinoni doesn't have one color. His Beinoni doesn't look one way. There's literally hundreds and hundreds types of his Beinoni. It comes different colors, different flavors. The common denominator in all forms of his Beinoni that the Baal HaTanya speaks about, and other tzaddikim speak about, is that the person, his Beinoni itself is an avoid. In other words, sometimes a person is not capable of it. His Beinoni is the ability of a person to be able to tune in to a certain emes and to try to think about it delve into it intellectually and internalize it experientially. His Beinoni is sometimes 2 minutes. We Yidden was Beinoni for 3 hours, he was Beinoni for 20 minutes, but his Beinoni is also 2 minutes or 3 minutes. But those 2-3 minutes, it's exclusive, it's an exclusive relationship.
Also like an example.
There's a word, the Medrash says, Pischuli kechudei shel machat, v'ani eftach lachem kepischei shel ulam. Hashem says, open up for me an opening like chudei shel machat. Chudei shel machat is the eye of the needle, which is tiny, of course, and I'll open up for you an opening kepischei shel ulam. Yeah. The Baruch Mezhebuja, the Einikol the Balshan, as I say, Butzina de Nahira. So he says, it says, Matoivu Ayalecha Yaakov Mishkanei Yisrael in Balak. So Rashi says, Ein Pischein Mechavon and Zen Neged Zeh. Matoivu Ayalecha Yaakov Tatznias, the doors of the tent were not parallel to each other. So when we both opened the tent, we couldn't see into each other's tent. There was a respect for another person's boundaries. So the Baruch Mezhebuja is Ein Pischein Mechavon, as also means a Jew and Hashem. It's not mechuven. You'll open up a little Pesach like the eye of a needle, and I'll open up kepischei shel ulam. So the Rebbe once teached, Pischuli kechudei shel machat means, the Eibishter sagt, Efen ofa mir alechele, kechudei shel machat. Gib mir menish wie 5 minut. Aber die 5 minut sollen sein nur meine. Give me only 5 minutes, but these 5 minutes should be only mine. I'll give a dugma. If you come to your wife and you say, here's an option. We could spend 6 hours together, but the phone is going to be with me. Every ring, every vibration, every WhatsApp, every text. 6 hours. And whenever the phone doesn't ring, or 5 minutes. Aber es ist nur deine. What is she going to choose?
6 hours and she take the phone.
Huh?
6 hours she take the phone.
You're saying they're never happy.
Yeah, huh? She has her own phone, then 6 hours.
Right? In other words, even if the phone rings only once, it's not negeya. The Gemara says, "Kol haroy lebila ein bila makeves by." The fact that it could ring already ruins the whole thing. Yeah. So that's the idea. The idea is, give me 5 minutes.
It should be like an alarm, quiet.
But nor mine. It's pnimiyazdik. It's emazdik. I'm completely there. With my mind, with my presence. With my mind, with my heart, with my soul, with my presence. But in that itself, there's types. The Chassidim, they would take something they learned, and they would think about it. They would just tune into it, reflect on it, crystallize it in their mind, apply it to their lives, apply it to their heart. That's a classical form of his Beinoni. Sometimes in the middle of davening, because so much of Chassidus is around davening, so a pasuk here, a pasuk there. They would sing a niggin. Again, that's already kol chada from shura delay. But the point is, there was a dveikus. Dveikus doesn't mean an hour. Some people can't do that, especially today. Attention span of people is 12 minutes. 12 seconds. Huh?
Went down to 8. 7.
And also, he has to know, some people, even that the davening is too hard, they get headaches, they get one psukkah de zimra, they get migraines. Close sitting in one place, they get migraines, they have to
Why
run.
do some yeshivas have davening for the Bochurim an hour and 40 minutes on a regular day?
Das ist, man will machen Yom Kippur ganz Jahr, für Yom Kippur steht, wie Nissim es nafshei seichen.
It's not because you didn't
He's actually a good shaila. Alter Rebbe called this Tanya Sefer Shel Beinoni, because he wants the Tanya to be for everybody. You see what a Beinoni is. You see what a Beinoni is. It's not shaykh to most people. It says in Perikid Beis, "Habeinoni le'over aveda miyama v'le'yaver leilam v'ne'le'nikra of Shem Rasha afilu shachas v'rega echad kol yama." Naniach, you'll teach in Tanya that he could do tshuva. Fine. But still, le'over, I mean.
I'm a rabbi, I know Beinoni.
Rabbi is a Beinoni. Rabbi, not Beinoni, because a Beinoni, we understand a Beinoni is.
It's a mistake.
So, fine, but we understand why he can make a mistake.
Yeah.
It's a mistake, but it's a good mistake. It's like a fairly toast. The Hilapadicha was a chassid of the Baal HaTanya. He finished Perek Aleph and he said, I used to think I was a shtickle tzaddik, and yet it's talavai Beinoni. So, the shaila is a good shaila. I'll be mavir one nekuda. The nekuda of the Beinoni is shaykh to everybody. The says does it. Whenever you read about a certain madrega in Chassidus or any sefer, people make a mistake and they look at it as black and white. Either I'm this or I'm not this, and since I'm not that, I'm the opposite. Every inyan exists in the lashon of the Alter Rebbe, b'shleimus, and also exists b'zeir ampin. B'zeir ampin means you'll have a mirror that reflects an image, and in the mirror it's much smaller. You have a picture of yourself. The picture is this size. The picture is 4 by 4. You're not 4 by 4. You're not 4 inches by 4 inches. Let's hope not. But the picture has all of you inside the picture. When you read about a madrega, maybe you can have a picture of it. A picture of it means the inyan, the way it applies in a miniature form. It's very, very important because people read about things and I'm not this, not shaykh to me. It was written, he wanted to express the inyan in its full amitius, but you have to take a picture of it. A picture of it means, a picture is a real thing. It's not you see a picture, you see what the guy looks like. In other words, you take the inyan the way it applies. Every madrega applies in every person's life in a certain ifa. Every inyan. Even a tzaddik. Kol shekein the inyan of a Beinoni. What's the chiddush of the Beinoni? And then we'll understand why it's so important. What's the chiddush of the Beinoni? The Azay de Welt always held that tzaddik is somebody who mostly mitzvahs, Rosh is mostly Averis, and Beinoni is 50-50. The Alter Rebbe completely rejects this notion. He says that's Stam Shem HaMushal, it's not the real idea. Sometimes you use it, like you'll say, your child got a good mark on the test, you're tzaddik. It doesn't mean you're... In this singing, you're a tzaddik. Somebody comes out from court and he's innocent, you're tzaddik. Doesn't mean... It's a Shem HaMushal. The real definition of a tzaddik and a Beinoni and a Rasha is something else. A tzaddik means libi chala b'kiri b'chal. Doesn't have a Yetzirah. A Beinoni is somebody who struggles, but lo yavar v'lo yaver. And a Rasha is somebody who struggles and he surrenders. If you'll now let's think about it. The big chiddush of Tanya is Sefer Shel Beinoni. Not Sefer Shel Tzaddikim and not Sefer Shel Hashem, Sefer Shel Beinoni. In many ways, the hero, if I could express myself this way, the hero of the Tanya is not the tzaddik. And certainly not the Rasha. It's the Beinoni. My Beinoni, my Chanukah, Tana Rabbanan, my Chanukah. Chaf-Daled Teves is Tana Rabbanan, my Beinoni. Well, what's this Beinoni? What's the... Was hat geegbert? Perek Aleph, the Alter Rebbe had to prove that a tzaddik is not somebody who did mostly mitzvahs, and a Rasha is not somebody who did mostly Avedas, and a Beinoni is not somebody 50-50. My Ichbaslei, what was bothering him? Stam up pilpul in Gemara, what a tzaddik and a Beinoni is, to understand Rabbah, or to understand Iyov, or to understand all the shilas over there in Perek Aleph, what a Rosh is. He asks a good shilah, the Gemara says in Shavuos, at the moment you do one Aveda, you're already a Rasha. So you're never a tzaddik, like a Ferish Gemara, so it's Molly Stiris. So he says, a Rasha is even one Aveda. What does he want? A lot of people learn the first Perek Tanya, say, okay, till I learned the first Perek Tanya, I thought that I'm a tzaddik. And now, I'm not even a Beinoni. Now I'm Stam Rasha. Okay, so what's the point? Makes you feel worse. The emes is that with this concept, he was trying to teach something that is often revolutionary. I'll say it b'kitzur nimrutz. If you read Sifrei Musar, if you read Sifrei Musar, if you read Svarim of Musar, I'm talking about serious Sifrei Musar, Shari Tshuva, Archas Tzadikim, Chovos HaLevavos, Reishis Chachma, Shari Tshuva, Mesilas Yesharim, what?
Etc.
Etc. Etc. All this. One day you learn this one of most. It's too fair. Shalom we get to learn Chovos HaLevavos. Tzemach Tzaddik used to learn 15 minutes before Mincha Chovos HaLevavos every day. So you learn all the svarim of a Sifrei Musar. Generally, Klal Yisrael is divided into two groups: good guys and bad guys. I'm speaking very generally. Tzaddikim and Rishayim, good guys and bad guys. The good guy is the guy who's aligned with Ratzon Hashem. Hashem and me, we're a good shidduch, shalom bayis. The bad guys are the people who are not aligned with Ratzon Hashem. The tzaddik is somebody that what Hashem wants is what I want. We're on the same page. Hashem doesn't want me to do this, I don't want to do it. He wants me to do this, I do that. That's how I live. I love him, I love his Torah, I love his mitzvahs. I'm what we call, what the Zayd used to call an Elichid. Yeah?
Not even in this sign.
What?
Not even in this sign.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
What kind of song?
That's the. Then there's the other group. The other group are the troublemakers. Hashem wants, so nichvil. Sometimes they do tshuva, then they can become tzaddikim, but very often they don't do tshuva, they remain rishayim. This was generally, again, I'm being very general, I don't mean to generalize and make it simple, but generally there's two categories of Yidden. Of course there's pratim and pratim and madregas, etc. Here's the challenge. Here's one of the great challenges. And today you can really appreciate it, but this was a challenge a few hundred years ago too. And that is, there were serious Jews who read all these Sfarim, and they wanted to make it personal. But they had a major problem. Problem was, there are those neshamas that get along with God. There are. In every generation, there's Yidden. I'm just saying it, in dramatic words, but they get along with Hashem. They just get along. Maybe because they're very bright, they're extremely bright, or maybe because they're so simple, innocent. They're just innocent. They're tmimim, or they're just hoichen neshamas. Whatever the situation is, but it's certain people. Maybe it's from birth, together with avodah, it's genes, it's nature, it's nurture, and esmali habayis kulaira, schisavis, the mamas tehillim, the mamas teredin, combination of everything together.
They don't wrestle.
Huh?
They don't wrestle.
In their own way, listen, everybody in the world wrestles. We live in a world. But there's wrestling and there's wrestling. You know what I mean? Yesh v'yesh, huh? There's wrestling in yeshiva. You know what I mean? And there's wrestling with the big boys.
Some of it is goydel.
Yeah. However, goydel, certain type of soul. You just have a certain type of soul, a sensitivity, an ehrlichkeit. You're going to decide your son is going to be the Rebbe tomorrow. Yeah. The Mendel Futterfass was very close to the Ribnitzer. The Mendel Futterfass was a Chabadsker who was in prison for many years. And he became close in Russia. He stayed for many years. He was with the Ribnitzer. So he said once that the Ribnitzer said, Reb Mendel, come in mikveh. So it was very intimate. He said, let's go to the mikveh. So the mikveh was in a river. The problem is it was winter. Winter in Russia is not winter in Monsey. Winter in Monsey is a heat wave. Winter in Monsey, it's a heat wave, Nechemya.
Last week we had a taste.
That's a heat wave.
No boating in 12 degrees.
There's no boating, but if you go to certain places,
Minus 40.
up north, up there, minus 40, it's a heat wave. Especially tonight is mamash a heat wave. So the rivers, when we went to Hadish, the Rebbe is buried near a river, the Psol River. It's ice, it's mamash ice. They were doing, you saw they were ice skating on it. Shabbos afternoon, there were Gentiles ice skating on it. There were Chassidim who would come and they would chop the ice and go to the mikveh because they didn't want to go in. Today they have a hot mikveh. There was no mikveh. There were no steps. There was nothing. They would chop the river to be able to go to the mikveh. But it's very dangerous because there's ice everywhere. If the person, it's mamash sakonas nefashos. So the Ribnitzer takes Reb Mendel down to the mikveh, to the river. It was freezing. So it was not ice. It was water, but it was water that mamish, you can suffer from, what's it called, hyperthermia. It's pretty dangerous. The frigidness, it was so cold. If you remember the Baal Shem Tov's mikveh in Mezhebush, it's a type of coldness. It's pretty dangerous. I went in. I couldn't go in 3 times because I felt the body is. You have to know your body. They wouldn't be able. You could be. Yeah. You went 3 times.
I went once.
I went twice. You couldn't go 3 times unless you have a different body. It's like dangerous. You could feel your body says Atkan. The Arizal's mikveh was like a heat wave, like Shem Tov's mikveh. The Arizal is varim lagabe the Baal Shem Tov's mikveh. Imagine push, huh? You can't compare. Anyway, so the Rebbe tells Reb Mendel, "Kum gain a mikveh." So Reb Mendel says it's a kalas nefashos. It was so cold, like the water is like 40 below zero. Whatever the number is, it didn't get. It was almost ice. He says, "Gay, so it's ein get." So Reb Mendel jumps in. Reb Mendel was a chassidische yid. He was a durchgevekte yid, but he was a regular person. He said he almost died. He came out. It was pitch dark. He almost died, but he came out. He got dressed. So then the Rebbe goes in slowly. He does 310 tefillas. Shai tefillas. 10 times. And 300, and slowly, he's better. In this water. He said once he felt he's not going to survive. And he's very relaxed. Now they came down a hill. It was a slope that to go down the river and had to go up. He finished the 310, he came up, he got dressed. And he says, and he runs up the slope like he was a teenager who does marathons every day. He comes up, and they go on top. He's going home, and it's already almost Alois Hashach. He wants to go daven, and suddenly a shiksa goes in front of him. He said, "But again." He goes back another 310 times. Okay, yeah, the Mendel used to say. The Mendel used to say this. That's what Mendel held. Okay, so you have a person. You have a person. So it's obviously it's a different caliber, a different quality. Whether it's on that madrega or lower madrega. And then you have the rest of the people who don't get along mamish with Hashem. Once in a while, not. So when they were reading Musa Svarim, very few people could genuinely go into the category of the tzaddik. Because it's not a guy who Yom Kippur wants to daven. It's a person who's always in sync with Ratzon Hashem. Who could say that about themselves? So the rest of the people went into the left. So either you go right or you go left. What does this do to people? It does one of two things. Either Yiyush, you give up. What does Yiyush bring to? Cynicism. Cynicism. You become a letz. You laugh. You become cynical because it's like it's all a joke. It's not real. Nothing is real. It's chaloimes shechalmu acherem al acherem. Sometimes you hear a Rav gets up and starts talking. Here he goes again. He's going to be selling the Brooklyn Bridge that they sold to him, they sold to him, and now he's going to sell it to me. And you could just see it on people's faces. I don't know if you know, but certain people, they open their mouth and everybody's faces are like, they may look at him, but it's like, yeah, wow, yeah. Can you also sell Venus? You could sell me Mars, yeah. And then the guy is serious. He's doing his job, no question. There was a mother once came to her Rav and she said, you have to save my child as Mashiach Gevara. Rav said, what happened? She said he put on a yarmulke, he wears tzitzis, he put on a Beinoni tefillin, and he goes to the mikveh, he doesn't drink chalavakum anymore. He started to do tayag mitzvahs, he kasher the home. He's a ganzer Mashiach Gevara. You have to save him. So the rabbi says, it's funny, you come to me, I do all these things also. She said, no, you get paid for it. My son, Nebuch, you get a salary. What are you going to get it by the bim and say, guys, I don't believe anymore? The rabbi he got to sell. Somebody got to do the propaganda. The music got to go on. Somebody got to sell the thing. But he says, my son, he's not getting paid for it. The guy Nebuch means it. Yeah. So some people go into that category. They just become, either they get depressed and they live with guilt because they look at the Svarim, they hear drushes, and they know that the Yom Kippur by Ne'ilah, they also don't give a hoot. And even if they read Zechain, they do, so it's for a few minutes. So either they feel guilty, or they have yiyush, they have despair. And if they don't want to feel guilty and have despair, they become cynical. They just detach, they disassociate, because they want to be free. They don't want to live with guilt. I always say a Jew, if he doesn't feel guilty, he blames himself. And if he doesn't want to blame himself anymore, he just it's all a joke, and you make fun of everything. Today you have an enormous amount of such people. They have a smirk. It's not bad, but they just give a little smirk. They give a little smirk. A lot of people, the first time they come to my shiur, they do that. They sit with a smirk. I'll tell you, Shafto, the kamayamim of smirk. That's his halach. That's his halach.
Judgments.
But it's the smirk. The smirk is, okay, the next con artist. The next one, the next charlatan. Let's find out, what he's up to. It'll take a week, it'll take a month. Okay. It's the smirk. And it's coming from pain. It's coming from innocence. I've heard too much how bad I am. And I had enough. I had enough of feeling that I don't belong.
Comparison from disappointment.
Which is also innocence. Annoyance, pain, frustration, disappointment. Alienation, yeah. I don't want, either I could feel dirty and filthy, I'm going to Gehenna tomorrow, or I say this whole thing is, leave me alone. I may do it for my kids. I'm not going to get divorced and take my kids out of the Moisdas and move to Greenwich Village. I live in Monsey, I'll stay in Monsey. I live in Kiryas Yoel, I'll stay in Kiryas Yoel. I live in Borough Park, I'll stay in Borough Park. I live in Lakewood, I'll stay in Lakewood, but I'm not part of the game. And wherever he can, he finds ways of entertaining himself. Then you have the other extreme. The other extreme is I don't want to live with guilt, I don't want to be disillusioned. So I make believe that I'm that tzaddik. Which means, what do you do with all your emotions? You have to repress all your emotions. Huh? You repress your emotions, and what happens is, I'm talking about also good people, you talk to them, you're not talking to a real person. You're talking to a facade. You're talking to a guy, he'll close his eyes on you, will start making with his hands, and this.
Automatic system.
It's an automatic system, because Faket, he wants to fit in. And he wants to say, I am that person. Ich bin jene ehrliche Yid, jene chassidische Yid. And if I really have to deal with my emotions, I know who I am. I have to say either I'm depressed, I'm guilty, or I'm disillusioned. I'm not. I'm a good guy. And it comes Rosh Hashanah, I feel dveikas. It comes Elul, I feel the rachamim. You give me the rachamim. It comes Chanukah, I feel Or Haganus. And I don't feel, I scream a little louder. I'll close my eyes more. And when you talk to that person, you can't have an honest conversation. Not because he's bad, because he can't have an honest conversation with himself. Because if he has an honest conversation with himself, the balloon platzes. So he becomes a very superficial person, or a very fake person, or a person who represses most of himself, or mutilates much of himself. He can't deal with it. These are two opposite extremes from the same issue. And that is Klal Yisrael is divided into two, Tzaddik and Rasha. And here is where we come to appreciate a little bit what the Alter Rebbe, the Baal HaYelula of tonight, wanted to give Klal Yisrael and every Jew in the world with Sefer Shel Beinoni. The Beinoni is not just because he found a pilpul mit dem Psalmen a Beinoni, because he found a Masechta Shavuos mit a Masechta Brachos, mit a Masechta Sanhedrin, mit a Masechta Rosh Hashanah to prove a tzaddik harasha. So he had a Psaguta pilpul. Alter Rebbe was a Baal Nigli, was a Litvaks. Everything by him is through Shas and Poskim and everything. That was his derech. But the Beinoni wasn't a Psakvetch and Gemara. The Beinoni was a Mahalach in Yiddishkeit. What's the Chiddush of the Beinoni? The Beinoni is a moiridike Chiddush. The Beinoni is a man who will always struggle. Like we learned in this Maimer, anything could trigger him. He walks in the street and he sees a woman, whoops, he's almost gone. He's almost gone. He sees a geschmacka piece of food and he's almost done. Anything could trigger him. Anger, znus, machshavas zoras, yiyush, all the issues that people struggle with. Meridin, Ratzon Hashem, complete disinterest in anything. Not interested in his wife, not interested in his kids, not interested in God, not interested in nothing. Wakes up in the morning and like, Shaloya Sani Goy, not me. Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam im hayisa oisoi sikoy. Ich will sein a goy, ich will sein a eved, a isha, weißen nicht. Then you have to take care of the kids. But a goy mit an eved avada. A eved maybe not. I don't relate to any of them. I'm not interested in you. And suddenly the Alter Rebbe said, who said that God wants perfect emotions? Who was mechadish this in Yiddishkeit? In Perek Yud Daled, in Perek Yud Gimel, in Perek Chav Zayin. Some souls were made to be tzaddikim. They have to be created like that. If you're not created like that, you may be able to achieve it, but you may never be able to achieve it. You may always have to deal with spaghetti that hits the fan. And when your spaghetti hits the fan, it goes all over the place, and the dining room gets very, very dirty. And there's some ketchup and mustard and barbecue soup too, barbecue sauce too. And you'll have to deal with it. And you may deal with it your whole life. Every person in their own way. This one's psychological, this one emotional, this one spiritual, this one all together. God never asked you to be a tzaddik in the sense that you're completely, holistically pure. Or as he says in this mimer that we learned tonight about shoivavim, tikkun abris, stop expecting this absolute purity. Expect triggers that will send you straight into an emotional abyss. And then I tell you that in that place, God said, I want you to connect with me. Because you'll always be in control of your thoughts, you'll always be in control of your words, you'll always be in control of your actions. Any mood or any struggle does not take away from you the ability to act a certain way, to speak a certain way, and to think a certain way. I may not be able to control every emotion. I may now be in a horrible, I may be angry, I want to punch you in the nose, I want to punch in the wall, and I want to run away to the Congo for 7 years. I want to. A Yid came to a Rav, huh?
Congo is good.
You like the Congo?
Yeah.
A Yid once came to a Rav and he said, Rebbe, he says, Rebbe, ich will a get. I want to get. The Rav says, wer will nicht? Him and Columbus discovered America. Well, who doesn't? Every guy wants. Especially when you get your Kabbalah's Ponim tonight. So when you get him,
It's the only license you don't renew. So nobody would.
Fine. You're the only one struggling. Are there people who don't struggle? Of course there are people. There are newlyweds, lovebirds who are, but how many neshamas are there? People read novels, they think every marriage is like that. Because one in 8 billion. And there's no 8 billion people in the world, that's my point. That was a new one. Maybe 1 in 7, maybe 1 in 6 billion. I don't mean to be not romantic, but it's not this. People struggle.
You're only saying when you're angry. What happens when you do act? Not you hit
Okay,
somebody.
fine.
How do you connect?
So I could make amends. That itself I could use to connect.
How?
When a person becomes accountable for what they did and they learn from it, that becomes part of the relationship.
So the tachlis is to have the struggle.
The mistake becomes a lesson. So
The mistake becomes a lesson, so the mistake itself becomes part of the relationship. It teaches me about myself, teaches me about my weaknesses, teaches me what I should be careful of tomorrow. Now, the ideal Beinoni is like Over Aveda. He never sins. You know why? Because the struggle for him doesn't make him sin. He's fine with it. He has place for it. Part of me has to deal with battles, and it doesn't mean it has to control my life.
And we can say Taichi doesn't believe he's a sinner, which is the biggest sin.
Yeah. The biggest sin in the world is when he decides that his struggle is sinful. That he's an evil person. He's not. So what the Alter Rebbe wanted to do with the Beinoni, what he did with the Beinoni is, to put it in one sentence, is, he allowed every single Jew, wherever he or she stands in life, to be able to find their place as an Oved Hashem, without chopping off parts of themselves, without the need to repress, to crush, to run away, to become cynical, to become angry, to deny, to become superficial. He showed how your life, the way it is, in all of its complexities, could be a shira to Hashem. Or as the Lashon of Hashem, Hamakayim, Ashata Oimed Alav Admas Kodesh. Oimed Alav. Oimed Alav means you're not a saint, but it doesn't mean you're wicked and evil. He's talking to Moshe as a Rebbe of the Jewish people. He's talking to Moshe as a leader, not to Moshe Stam as a... Huh? He's talking to Moshe as a leader. There is the shit about Moshe, a famous story with Moshe to Tiferes Yisrael, that you know the story with the picture? Huh?
That a king sent somebody to...
Yeah, I mean, many people deny the story, but the story is an interesting word. The Tiferes Yisrael brings it in the Mishnayos that, I think in Kedusha, that Moshe Rabbeinu, he says he found a source that Moshe was in the Midbar, and there was a king who heard about what Moshe did, so he sent his greatest artist to pick the painting, to make a painting of him. And the person brought back the painting, and he gave it to experts on Chachmas HaPartz, the people who study the face. They looked at the picture and they said, this person is a mushkis. He's a corrupted, fadorben person. He's a horrible person. So the king said, probably he made the wrong, he got the Gabbai instead of the Rebbe. Whatever, whatever. He just got the wrong guy. They said he has the longer beard. He has a mazel. He has a longer beard. So they sent another guy, the same picture. So the king couldn't deal with it. So he went. This is what he says. He went himself to the Midbar, and he asked if he could meet Moshe. They said yeah, and he went to meet Moshe privately. And he looked at Moshe, and he saw the picture, and he saw it's the same thing. It looks perfect. So he tells Moshe, I have to ask you a question. My experts tell me that your face represents horrible, horrible midas. You're a horrible person. There's something off. So Moshe says, they're right. I was born with a very, very difficult personality. And I worked on myself. I challenged myself to become who I am. Okay, now, many people challenge this Tiferes Yisrael. The Gemara says, Nesmali habayis kula oire. He was born Vatero Yisikitoivu. But this word is brought even, the Degel Machen Ephraim brings it. Talmidei Baal Shem Tov bring, not the story that Moshe Rabbeinu was born with a difficult teva. So the story with the Schneur would also apply to him according to this mahalach. Again, it's a debatable issue, but certainly we could learn from it, right? So that's the word that the Beinoni represents a model for every person, wherever I am, even a person who sins. But the concept of the Beinoni means that I don't have to look at my negativity and either get depressed about it or make believe it doesn't exist. And then I have to use so many distractions to numb my pain because it's very painful to know that it exists. So most of my life I'm busy making believe I don't have something or covering up or getting rid of the pain, which means that I'm completely not even connected with what I want to be. But rather it has a place, and that's part of his avodas Hashem. He explains in Tanya that Hashem told, Yitzchak told Esav, Aseli mat'amim. Mat'amim is a 2-course meal. So the Alter Rebbe says there's 2 types of meals. This is mamish for dein arbet. He says there's a meichel that's made of delicious sweet food. You make a cheesecake for Kiddush. What do you use? You use flour, sugar, eggs, oil, margarine.
Very little flour.
Very little
Lots of
flour,
sugar.
of course. Lots of sugar.
Lots of fat.
Lots of fat. And of course, lots of cheese.
It's fat.
And it's a geschmack of food. Everyone goes crazy. You put in a little marble, whatever it is, and the oil and vat machine. Then you make your money. They get fat. You make your money. Everybody's happy.
I taste.
Whether you taste a little bit, that's called or geschmack and machal. Then he says the second type of chef. He has a food, and you taste it, and it's full of tarty, bitter foods that are very spicy. And if you take the spice for itself, it's not edible. But this chef knows how to take the most horrible herb or spice, which is very bitter and not edible, and he puts in a little amount into the salad, into the cholent, into the fish, into the kishka, into the soup. I'm a chaya. Verkehrt, if you don't put in salt, it's a Feldsalz. Now, who eats salt? Which normal person eats salt? But if you take the salt and you know how to put in the right amount of ingredients into the soup, into the salad, the salt actually makes the food. It gives it its beauty. So the Alter Rebbe says that's the difference of the tzaddik and the Beinoni. The tzaddik serves God with sugar. Tzuk is this. He's a sweet yid. There's no bitterness in him. The Beinoni is full of black pepper, schug, charif, crushed pepper, fefe, metzaltz, with all the tarty foods, jalapenos, yeah? Everybody's into jalapenos. Sriracha, all the good stuff. And then he takes it. So if you stop eat it on its own, it's horrible. But he's a chef. The very bitterness becomes an instrument in avodas Hashem. Either, as Rabbi Isaac said, it becomes an opportunity for tshuva, for rediscovery, or it becomes an opportunity to be able to crystallize what you believe in, what you don't believe in. By struggling against this and confronting it, you really have to tell yourself, this is who I am, this is who I'm not. So the bitterness itself is converted and transformed to a tremendous instrument of avodas Hashem. So not only don't you run from it, this is your tachlis briyas ha'olam, ulai lekach nivra, to be able to deal with it. It doesn't glorify evil, it doesn't glorify this. It has a mitzvah to struggle. But the point is that the various ups and downs in life that we have internally, this is essential to the whole mahalach. And this changed the paradigm for millions of Jews, what avodas Hashem is. It allowed the person to be able to show up to God fully, in your full presence. Heilach, wie sagt die Gemara in Bab Metzia, Harei shalcha lefanecha, da bin ich. Here I am. Hineni. The ability to be able to say Hineni, that's what great Rashi says.
Fool me.
Fool me, Hineni. Avram said Hineni. Yaakov, Moshe, Shmuel, Hineni. What's the mile of Hineni? Hineni means Ich bin da mit the ganze, the full self. Hineni, I'm here. I'm here fully. You know why? I didn't have to cut anything off. I didn't have to run. I didn't have to deny. I didn't have to repress. I'm not afraid of it. I don't become disillusioned. Hineni, I'm here. The ability to be able to say Hineni, Vayomer Avi, Vayomer, Hineni Vni, Ich bin da. I'm here. What happened with all the torment, with all the confusion? There's a place for it.
They didn't have any Jewish guilt.
Depends what guilt is.
I think the biggest problem.
We confuse guilt with tshuva, with remorse. By us, guilt, we think guilt is holy. Guilt is worse than the Aveda.
I know that. But
Because guilt doesn't tell you the sin is bad. That would be good. That's tshuva. Guilt tells you you're bad, you're evil, you're hopeless. It's worse than the Aveda.
but somehow they're all ingrained in the DNA. Yiddishkeit with that.
Interesting that
Nobody grows up with that understanding that think that the Veda is bad, they think they're bad. I don't know, nobody, but most people.
That's because we fail to teach our students and our teachers, our children, Torah Sabal
The
Shabbat.
people that were taught generations before they were taught properly, they didn't have that struggle. Because to me, it sounds from what we discussed now, if you can remove that, then then
Mashiach will be closer.
then everybody would welcome the challenge. It's almost fun to
Guilt destroys people constantly. It's one of the most poisonous ingredients. It paralyzes people, doesn't help them grow.
Not only that, it's the biggest shackles. But from what we spoke now, that's the biggest struggle then. Because if a person wouldn't feel that I'm a piece of garbage, we wouldn't have to cut out half of his personality or numb it. You would welcome the challenge, just like if you're in business, you make a mistake and you learn from it. Tomorrow you don't make that mistake, and then you turn the mistake into an opportunity. Nobody gets depressed about that, right? So that's the way I see it. It's getting avoided to me. From what I summarize from it, is getting rid of the guilt.
Getting rid of the guilt is one important thing. Another important thing is
Learn Tanya every day.
learn Tanya every day. Yeah. Another important thing is learning that just because I struggle with something, it doesn't mean it has to own me.
Okay.
It has its place, and fakert. The more I could give it its place, the less it owns me. In other words, like this. The less I give it its place, I say, no, ich bin nicht das Amishchis, no, ich bin nicht shaykh to them. I don't give it any place. People think, oh, you're chasing it away. The more it owns you. Because it creeps in silently and it controls everything. You know what I mean? Ich covet. Nah. You know how people are? Should I put your name on the flyer? Nah. And then he's upset. Oy vavoy, you change his name. Why? Because he had to tell himself, me covet? Yeah, me covet.
Double whammy, but I'm not talking about somebody who wants to be honest with
the more
himself.
you give place to it, you say, yeah, chaplib basach covet.
No, it's in the last few years,
Chaplib basach covet.
I've got this.
Fakir doesn't. Then there's a part of you that doesn't need the covet. My real value is not
Somebody
covet.
once told me a one-liner, whatever you do with conviction. Gotta do an Avayda. It took me like 4 to 6 weeks to process. Whatever you do it with conviction. Try it out for size. It's a mind messes with your mind. No, but I'm asking because it looks like that's the biggest. You have to pinpoint the biggest struggle. Comes down to that. Somehow we have ingrained in our DNA that we're not good enough. I mean, all humans have it.
There's also another component that the Beinoni knows about his neshama. His inner core is divine, and he knows it, like he says in this Maimon, Usa the Libby. He's very aware of it, and he connects to it.
After hearing it for 2-3 years, I now know it.
Okay,
to
so
a
I'm saying this.
certain degree.
Don't underestimate this Nakud.
I'm not. I'm very much in touch with it.
He knows it. He connects to it. He cherishes it. He wants to fight for it. If I don't think I have this in me, so fakir, this is my mood. I embrace this. He knows that there's a deeper value for him that he wants to fight for, and he has to awaken it every morning by shachris. It's verstanden in the Bishon.
I would like to share with you. You mentioned
Alter Rebbe is given a große Masaken. It's Masaken. Große Masaken, the whole world, ganze Welt, alle Neshamas Yisrael. Große Masaken. You go to Hadid, you could feel it. Right? Masaken. You could feel that Masaken. A Roya Yisrael hat aufgeheben the ganze Welt.
exactly what I asked you.
He knew everything, and everything was part of it. There was nothing, nicht entlaffen von uns. Nicht entlaffen von uns. Didn't run away.
Alter Rebbe doesn't want to have it.
Avort. There was the Zlobin Chasana. You know what the Zlobin Chasana? There's a city. We were in Zlobin. Remember?
No, we didn't.
We were in Zhitomir. Sorry, Zhitomir. There's a city called Zlobin. It's in the Ukraine. There was a Chasana in Zlobin, a grandson of the Baditchever, to a granddaughter of the Alter Rebbe. The Baditchever's grandson to the Alter Rebbe's granddaughter. So the Alter Rebbe and the Baditchever both came to the wedding. Liadi and Barditchev are very far. We were in Barditchev. Liadi is very far. So they made it in Zlobin because it's midway. The Chasana was Shabbos Nosoi, Tovkuf Samach Zayin. Shavuos time, after Shavuos, 1807. Rabbi Krieger is not here. 1807. It was the chuppah was Friday. They used to get married Friday. The Sudas HaChasana was Friday night, but it was a whole what we would call an extended weekend. Which normal person didn't want to attend? Alter Rebbe is going to be the Baditchev. Everybody came. It was a packed chasana. So there's a lot of Geshmak Maises from the Chasana. Alter Rebbe said of many Maimonim. A lot of them are, most of them are printed. We learned once, L'kud HaTorah Shir Hashidim, Keitzad Mirakdin, Lifnei Kal the Machlekes Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel. That was said at the Zlobin Chasana. Parshas Nosei, a lot of Nosei Maimorim. Said a lot of Maimorim. So they say, a Maise, Santa Maise. They were going to the chuppah, so the Alter Rebbe and the Baditcher were walking together. The entrance to the chuppah was a narrow door, and only one person could walk in at a time. So the question was, who's going to walk in first? So they each wanted to be mechabed the other. So they started a whole, you go, you know how it is. The Baditcher was older. So the Baal HaTanya said, Mr. Alter, said, yeah, but there was the Gon Hador. But everybody was on the Weile, Megatnisht. It's Friday afternoon. So the Baditchev tells the Alter Rebbe, and he didn't mean it as a joke. You have to know, he wasn't a joker. He said, I have a shtickle solution. Let me gain durch the Wand. We'll walk through the wall. Through the wall, there's no limitation. We can walk together. There's different gears, is what Alter Rebbe said. One of them is, he told the Baditchev, nee, we get durch ein Tier. Soll the Tier werden breiter. We're going to go through the door. The door needs to widen. Others say he said, you don't have to show all the tricks. Whatever, the Nekud is the same. The Jew said, we go through walls, we don't have to go through doors. The Rebbe said, no, we have to go through the door. Teva is not forced compromise. Nebach belebt in Teva. Teva is al lechatchilas, and nicht abediev. You understand? Teva was a lechatchilah. By other Yidden, Teva was a nebach. Belebt in our Welt. What should we do? Gan Eden is no Teva. It's a nebach. But with those Yidden who didn't feel the nebach of Teva, but that's because they were drowned in Teva. There's nothing else. Aber ehrliche, heilige Yidden, Teva is a nebach. And there were those Yidden who Taka went l'mayla ben Teva. There was no nebach. Alter Rebbe said, "Ich can't get l'mayla ben Teva." But Teva is not a b'diavad. Teva is a lechatchila. We're here to change the world. The world on its terms, not the world in heaven. The world in the world.
Really, Teva is no less ness than a ness.
Okay, the Chacham Tzvi Avada. But he's talking about it's not just
But the Congo,
huh?
and Lamas, they walk through.
It's not the point. It's almost not the point. We don't go through.
Zijn is gebleven in de roost. They made it to the gasten.
The Alter Rebbe said, they went through the door. That I can promise. It was a week, it was a heavy wind. He finished one of the Maimonim, Ketzel Merak Lefnei HaKal. He said, Tzadik Hashem b'chol derocha v'chazad b'chol maso. Tzadik Hashem l'mayl is the Eberster. And Tzadik l'mata is Rabbi Yitzchak Baditchev. That's how he finished the Maimon. Tzadik l'mayl is the Eberster, Tzadik l'mata is Rabbi Yitzchak Baditchev.
Really?
It's not printed in Likud Torah. This is a Torah Shabbat Peh from Chassidim. The one who wrote it didn't write it, because then they were... For them, this was Chitzonius. Today it's Shempnimius, but for them, Lagabe the Maimah was Chitzonius, they didn't put it in.
How much older was the Alter Rebbe from the...
No, younger. He was younger. A few years.
Alter Rebbe was younger?
Younger than Baditchev. Baditchev passed away before most. They remained close, very close. The Baditchev wasn't like the Baal HaTanya, different, but he was completely like
He was a Talmud from the Maggid?
Yeah, and he defended him stark. When Avram Kaliska said he doesn't like Tanya, it's too intellectual, he wrote a letter. Yeah. He said that wir haben alle gegessen von derselbe Teller und der Litvak hat gechabt Smetten. We all ate from the same dish and the Litvak grabbed the cream on the top. La crème de la crème. The Litvak hat gechabt, zugenommen the Smetten. Huh? So they say that after the Chasana was Sunday or Monday I think, Alter Rebbe had an old balagola, a coachman who took him around for years, and he went into the wagon. And Alter Rebbe loved the Baditchev Avas Nefesh. He had an Ava Nafshus of Levitza Baditchev, and conversely, Baditchev loved him. They had, when he was taken to prison, he sent a pidyon to Levitza Baditchev. Sent to prison, and the Chassid came, and he forgot to ask. Baditchev said, "What's the mother's name?" He said he forgot to ask. So he said, "Apidyon without the mother." So Baditchev opened up the Chumash, Parshas Bereshis. He opened the Parshas Meketz. Vayar ki yesh shever b'Mitzrayim. Yaakov saw that there's shever, grain. Rashi teaches shever. There's good news in Mitzrayim. Ruach Hakodesh. So shever is Schneur ben Rivka. Baditcher was a Shever Schneur Bernufke. The Baditcher asked the Chassid if when they took the Alter Rebbe if he was B'Yishuv Hadas or he was in chaos. So he said, B'chitzonius it looked like he was chaotic. He lost it. He said, B'pnimius, he said, Ich weiß nicht. He said, the talis and tefillin, he took first or last? He said, he took it first. He says, it's going to be Yishuv. It's B'Yishuv Hadas. So what happened? So they go into the balagol, they go into the coach. So the Alter Rebbe say, "B'derech tzachos." He loved the Baditcher so much. He turns to the balagola, almost like a friend. He couldn't ask it to anybody else. He says, "Nu, was sagst du wegen meinem Chutn?" He wanted to hear, like you say, what do you say about my chassan, my kala? He loved the Baditcher. He says, you saw him in action. The Baditcher was in full glory. He says, "Was sagst du auf meinem Chutn?" What do you say about my Chutn? So the Balagala says, I am a Chutn is Pile Ployim. Aber a Rebbe v'yaich is nicht doch. Your Mechutn is wonder of wonders. Aber a Rebbe like you, there's no. Says, because the Baditcher was talking Pile Ployim. He was Pile Ployim. Huh? He had a chush.
It's his boss. What do you want to do? It's job.
It's first time as an icing.
He had a chush. There's an Indian of Pile Ployim. The Indian of a Rebbe is the whole world. Will the ganze Welt. He's not just Pile Ployim. He's a leader of the world. He's not satisfied with heaven. He has to take the whole world.
And it's true.
He has to take the Nefesh HaLekiz, the Nefesh HaBahamas, the Guf, Yidden, Goyim, the ganze Welt, Doimen, Semeya, Chaim, Medaber. Alter Rebbe wanted that Alter Rebbe taught that the whole world craves to take its mouth and place it on the mouth of the Jew and declare together Yizgadol v'Yizkad HaShmeirab. That's already not Pile Ployim. That's a Shemili Bashamayim v'Imchalech Chafatz Dibarts. A Balagola has a chush that other people don't have. Other people, they see moifsim, they get vachab. Balagolas, they have perspective.
It's like the story with the Gabbai, right? The guy comes on the first
The
time.
Mechutin is Pile Ployim, no question. Hands down.
The guy comes on Rosh Hashanah night. The guy comes on Rosh Hashanah night. The first time his cousin tells his wife.
Azaktibe.
He's looking for some advice. He tells his wife, I don't know what's going on. So how was the first time davening for them? He says, I don't know. The Gabbai says that the Oilam Zuk, the Gabbai Zuk, that's nicht getoit. So the wife wants to comfort him. What's the Gabbai? Zuk na Lebe was the Oilam Zuk.
He repeats. Het beleuchtte de Welt. He brought an ein Seif to the world. It's in a Schneur.
Tanya. Baal HaTanya.
Alter Rebbe was a similar to the Baditcher. Alter Rebbe, when he said Torah, he used to throw several...
The Baditcher, he's a tremendous... Yeah. The Baditcher, we're going to Kedusha. What are you talking about?
I have a question.
The Baditcher once came somewhere Shabbos. You know the Monsey? He came somewhere Shabbos. Yeah. And he asked, was it a Baruch or one of the big Rebbes, if he could stay by him for Shabbos? He said, yeah, but tonight, no shtick by the table. Tanz nicht und springt. Baditcher would make Kiddush and gesprungen. He davened. He was a fireball. He said, no shtick by the Shabbos table. Ich fühle wie ein Mensch. Baditcher made it tonight. He came out, the poor waiter comes out, he says, Rebbe, wilt fish? You know how it is, you want fish? He jumped up, fish will ich? Ain't so will ich? And he started to drop on the table, fish will ich will fish? Ain't so, he jumped.
What happened with the fish? According to Rabbi Tursky, the fish hit the ceiling and the dripped down on his talus or whatever. And that talus stayed in the family. That they held on to that talus with the fish.
With the yoich. So after Shabbos, he went in to ask Mechila from the tzaddik he was by that he violated. He says, "I'm not going to pay that." Das ist nicht gewesen gegräht. The guy asked, du willst Fisch? He went crazy. If Fisch will ich. Ich will nicht gewollt. I didn't want you should prepare drama. This was a spontaneous, was habe ich time. Yeah, he triggered. That's how you trigger a tzaddik. You say the willst Fisch. A Beinoni you trigger other ways, yeah. When I rush you trigger other ways. That's how you trigger a tzaddik. Huh? Sag mal. Mitten Teile, bei der Mamora. Daveningen bei Chassidus. Das ist ein Tillen. Das macht Tzaddik. Ich will nicht gehen Eden, Alien, ich will nicht. Mili Bashamayim, wem
Ich bin auch dich allein. So, das ist noch Zedek gesagt? Nicht der Alter Rebbe?
We know it from the Tzimmer Tzimmer. Tzimmer says, Kacha Yenishma, Mikvoit Kedusha, Sadoini, Avi, Skeni, Moidi, Verabi, Shayan, Oime, Beist, Vekusa. Kacha Yenishma, Mikvoit. So, Tzaddik writes it, it's... best max. Ja, denk moet je zeggen. Scheiß mit so Tfille dacht sich. Kacha ja nishma meis kvoit Kedusha sazmur beis dve kusa. Mili bashamayim ve imchel gefatz di baretz. Ich will nicht dein Ganeden atachten, ich will nicht dein Ganeden alien, ich will nicht dein Olam Hase, ich will nicht dein Olam Habe. Ich will meines das dich allein.
Every second moment,
Sehr oft. Man sagt der Indien, aber er sagt, dass er gewinnt Dveikus. Ja, weil er könnte nicht statt der Laschen in Jiddisch, das macht Zeit. Er sagt nicht der Balken, er sagt der Koyach Eleki. Chaf-Daled Teves in hem.
Wie steht er zu sagen, weg mit so?
The story? No, this is a base Rebbe.
Ich meine, es wird direkt weg zu sagen, von gesehen.
No.
Nein? Payment.
He told it to Tzaddik, he asked him, what do you see? He said, the koyra, the rafter, the ceiling, the beams. He said, he doesn't see the koyra, he sees the Koyach Eleki. That was Chaf-Daled Teves, that was the night.
Yeah, that day.
I would say Shabbos.
How old was your
He was born Tov Kuf Hey, so 68, right? 68. To the Santa Zach, the Tzemach Tzedek writes about the Petida. Mamash the exact 10:25. Mitzvah Shabbos, it's winter, Chaf-Daled Teves. So he says he davened Meidev. They brought us to Schneur Harav Dagdam. He davened Meidev, made Havdalah and coffee, but Slilus Hadas, or Bedvekas Nefla. He wrote a short mimer, Nefesh Hashvei Lebemes Lamitai. Tzemach Tzedek writes in a letter that he was davening Meidev Mitzvah Shabbos. Now they didn't expect Alter Rebbe. He got sick, but they didn't expect. He was a very healthy person. He said, "But the Brias Haguf, they thought he was going to live much longer." It was like it wasn't. He got sick. He had pneumonia, whatever he had, but it was like sudden lefiyerech that he's mamish azoydas. Alter Rebbe wrote my mother. I mean, he was like 68. There's a lot of conversations that he had that are written down. He was in a place called Piena. So the Tzemach Tzedek writes that I davened Meidev Mitzvah Shabbos myself, and he was crying, and he was in a terrible Morosh Chayda. And he said, Hispalalti b'nigun shel Morosh Chayda. He davened with a depressing nigun. He writes about himself. V'loi amar li davar himtinli, he waited till I finished Meidev. And after I finished Meidev, and he says, he called me in, and he says that the Zohar says in Parshas Tetzaveh that the image, the mood that a person shows here lamata is reflected back lamayla. And he told him a word from the Maggid. So it's a hafladik word from the Maggid. In the Merkava of Yecheskel, so you have the Kisei HaKavod, the throne. It says Va'al HaKisei Dmus Kemare Adam Alav Milmayla. On the throne, there's a dmus. It looks like a person. Dmus Kemara Adam Alav on the Kisei Milmayla on top. In other words, this is the Lashon Kabbalah, Adam ha'elyon sh'al ha'kisei. The higher Adam on the kisei, which means the Esesphiris, Atzilus, whatever, however you touch. So the Maggid touched Tazoi. On the kisei ha'kavod, Hashem is a dmus, is an image kavayachol, and that dmus is Kemara Adam. It reflects the face of the person. The Mara Adam is Allah Malmaila. If the face of the person, in other words, if you want to say it in sharp words, we create our own divine relationship. We create the divine. We don't create God, but we create the flow of God.
Flow to us.
Yeah. So he says, the Dmus is Kamara Adam. It's based on your Mara. So he says, if you're positive...
The laws of attraction?
Huh?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Let's go.
If you... Ist das gehört? So nicht geschickt. In Florida darf man nicht trachten gut. Moshe, vayire Moshe, vayoyma achinoi doyhaim. From this came the Lashon Tzemach Tzedek, trach good v'zayin good. So he said, if you
I
should...
just know of the book, the laws of attraction, the laws of Abraham.
The secret.
Yeah.
So they say that the world, what they call it, universal intelligence. The world has intelligence. Nobody knows where. Fine, the world has.
This goes along. What you put out is what you.
Yeah. So it's Zoya Parashtava. It says Alma Tata. Alma love feeds Alma Tata. Loy the matzav of Alma Tata. It says if he's in a matzav of simcha, a person has positive energy. So then that's the Mara Adam, that's the Musa Alien, and if not. So the Alter Rebbe told him, do not daven with such a niggin of Marish Chayra. And he says, B'zeh ha'ya tefillah ha'acheren l'fnei misasai. And a little while later, he passed away. So the Tzedek says it was kachatzois, yeah, much before, right before. It's a half of a fella. Kachatzois Shayir Aleph, which means not 10:30 but 10:25. Kachatzois was the Ptira in Kvar Piana, and the children weren't there. He had a son, Reb Chaim Avram, was very, very sick. Amish himself, Asakanas Nefashis. Reb Moshe was kidnapped by Napoleon, by the French. He was by the French, and they tortured him terribly. And the Mittler Rebbe went to search for a house in Kremenchuk. They needed a place to live because they were in a Goyish Aderfel. And so nobody was there. The Tzemach Tzedek was there.
And his brother, no? Tzemach Tzedek had a brother, or who went with him?
Oh no, the Mittler Rebbe had a son, Reb Nachum. They went, yeah. And they had to go to. They needed a Keva Yisrael. There was no Kvar Piana. There was no Jewish.
Hadaj was also not a Jewish.
But there was Epis, something. There was a Jewish cemetery, and they heard from the Alter Rebbe the week before. He said the name Hadaj a few times.
They made that trip in that sled. I don't know.
Unbelievable. They took a sled.
You can't do it with a car.
It was below zero. And they took a sled, horses with a sled, and they put. And you couldn't go from city to city during war with a mess. So they dressed Alter Rebbe like a live person, sitting on the seat between them. And it's a long mahalach. In a car, it's a long mahalach. It's not.
This was only just to get to a Jewish cemetery.
Alter Rebbe said a few times the name Hadich. So after the Ptira, they didn't realize he's going to pass. They needed a place. In Hadich, there was a little community.
There was no community closer to Vienna?
You could go the other direction, but it was similar distances. It's all far. So you had to go to Hadich, and it's probably a danger, but it was unbelievable snow, not stam, and a frost.
Not like Monsey summer snowstorm.
The Tzemach
Yes.
describes the temperature?
No. That's from the Sipurim. And they came to Hadich. Now, today, if you go to Hadich, there's steps that go down. The Alter Rebbe is all the way down a slope near a river.
Yes.
There were no steps. There was a mountain.
They said the
I
horse went to a certain space.
I heard from people, a lot of people from the old Russians before, yeah?
20 years
And it was a shtickle. How did people go down?
I was there when they broke the mikveh also. They broke
How did people go down on that slope?
Slid on your tuchus.
A little dangerous?
And up,
Or up?
that's easy.
Just,
You waited for the winter to leave.
Really?
We were there one day on the Yahrzeit.
It's a cemetery, so
We just climbed in the snow, like
There are other.
People were deep into the snow.
Now they built.
But how they got the Aron down and
You don't have the
They say the
building.
horse-
The building already is down from the main
right,
sea.
yeah, you already go
Quite-
down the mountain and then go down. And
Where
remember, there
we
were no
go from-
steps, nothing. It was all a huge mountain. It's
Steps
huge.
start now already halfway. to the
Right, it's
mountain.
already half. Yeah. It's interesting. The Baal Shem Tov is near a river, the Maggid is near a river, and Alter Rebbe is near a river.
Reb Nachman is ook next to him.
Yeah. The Mezhebush is near a river, and Anipoli is also near.
Right.
The Nahuras are good. The 4 Nahuras are good.
Anapol is like in the middle of
On the
nowhere.
Harp Sol, huh?
Anapol is like in the middle
Also
of nowhere.
near a river, and the Baal HaTanya is mamish right near a river, the Psal River.
Also
The
nowhere
Vittel Rebbe writes it. Kavarnu is on the Harp Psal, and the shul they built right there, you know, that little building, that the Mittler Rebbe built. Right, that building is mamish from the Mittler
You mean where
Rebbe.
the, where
Where-
the,
Where they daven the small shul.
in Happel.
where we
In Haditch, there's the caver, and the next room is a shul, and there's a door that's open from the shul to that. It's a unique reality. Yeah, exactly.
No, they restored it.
No, they renovated the insides, but it's the same.
I've been on the. I've been going to college trying to go 3/4 times in Ukraine. Always got busted in the way.
It's busted. Many years? Many years?
I was stuck a few days. Snow and stuff.
There's a story with the doorway, right?
What in Haditch?
He built the show or something.
The what? Sega was building a second mikveh.
Why?
No, he has a house in the main road. What's the name of the? He's a rough in nearby,
Yeah.
whatever the closest. What is it called?
Paltava?
Yeah. I don't know if there was any politics in it.
Tzedek was feeling was that grief he saw his alien like that. The Alter Rebbe felt that it was a
Where?
that he should not feel. Even then, he shouldn't feel.
Check it out.
Trying to protect everybody. What was he trying
No, I don't think this grief of Avelis when somebody passes away is according to halacha.
He was trying to say to him.
I think he was trying to. He knew how difficult it's probably going to be, and he was probably empowering him not to fall into despair.
Yeah?
When the Alter Rebbe passed away, it was a very big devastation because there was no.
It was planned.
Also, he was away from everything. There was no infrastructure. They were escaping from months already, from Napoleon. He was mamish in a little town, renting a house of a Gentile with a few people, with nothing. The glory the Alter Rebbe created, he was the Rebbe of Rebbes. His last years, thousands of people came, and it all ended like on the road. Nobody even knew. There was no successor. There was absolute devastation, and it was the middle of a war. So the Jewish communities were suffering terribly. There was no home to go back to. Liadi, where they came from, was all burned to the ground. Napoleon went through it. It was all burned to the ground. So there was nowhere to come home to. There was a widow. There were children. So there was a tremendous despair on many levels. And also, when a person of that magnitude passes away, nobody thinks you could continue. It's too big. You know what I mean? There's good people, but when you have such a presence of a person that comes around once in thousands of years, it's not a regular personality. It's not just a Rav or a Gadol or a Gon or a Tzaddik or a Talmud Chacham. It's a different type of soul. So it's just, the void is so infinitely intense that, how do you pick up the pieces? Like, how do you wake up the next morning? The Mittler Rebbe and the Tzemach Tzedek wanted to move into Haditch and stay at the oil for the rest of their life.
Why didn't they?
They did, and then they both picked themselves up and completely relocated
Where?
to Lubavitch.
From there to the
Yeah,
Lubavitch?
they went far away.
For Vienna,
Lubavitch
they
is
ended-
Belarus. Vienna is where he passed away. They went to Haditch. That's Ukraine.
How long were they in Haditch?
No, they went back to Vienna.
Tried to build a community in Haditch?
No, there was first they thought they're going to stay there. They'll live there. They'll daven there. They'll eat there. You don't want to go away. This is where he is. They'll both be here. But the Mittler Rebbe went to Lubavitch.
Why Lubavitch? So far away. It was after the war.
No, well, they came from Liadi. Their birth was Lithuania, Belarus. That's the Vitebsk, Liadi, Lyozhna, Lubavitch. That's the source of Chabad. So they went back there.
So they tried going back to Liadi, or?
So when the Alter Rebbe was still alive, the Mittler Rebbe in Kremenchuk was looking for a place where the Alter Rebbe would move, but that didn't work out. They couldn't go back to Liadi. There was nothing left. And so they went to Lubavitch. They found the Mittler Rebbe found Lubavitch, and he created Lubavitch over there, in the city of Lubavitch. It's a little town. Lubavitch is a tiny, tiny town. A few thousand people could live there. Today you go there, there's 70 people with chickens.
Anything left from them? No.
Nothing left in Lubavitch. Nothing. Today they put in the area, they put something. Nothing left. Nothing. The Germans destroyed everything.
Is there a shliach over there? Yes.
There's no Jew. There's not one Jew in Lubavitch.
How long?
There's not one Jew in Lubavitch. In Haditch, maybe there's a Jew or two. In Lubavitch, in Mezhebush, there's no Jew.
The Zalman is right. They say Lubavitch has no Jews.
How long was the Mittler Rebbe in Lubavitch?
The Mittler Rebbe remained.
So when they sent the man,
It's the truth. There's no Jews in Lubavitch.
Lubavitch became the new center of Chabad
No, that's
till the Rashab ran away from the Germans in the First World
three
War.
generations.
Not three. The Mittler Rebbe, the Tzemach Tzedek, the Marash, and the Rashab. And the Rayatz grew up there too. The Rashab, the last 4 years, he left. He didn't want to be under the Germans.
And the Mittler Rebbe, when there was after the war, right?
Napoleon's war finished, and the Mittler Rebbe moved there with the whole family, with the Almana. Her name was Sterna, and his own wife, and the family, and the Tzemach Tzedek moved. Everybody moved there. And they rebuilt. Now the thing is that Chabad split them, because the Alter Rebbe had a Talmud, his name was Reb Aaron Strashella, Reb Aaron Halevi Horowitz. And he was very close to the Alter Rebbe. He was a Yassim, and the Alter Rebbe took him into his home, and he raised him. And he was like a Ben Bayis. One of the letters he signs, like from Bnei Harav, he was mamash a Ben Bayis. And he was an Isha Leki, he was a Get Lechemench. When the Alter Rebbe passed away, he became a Chabad. He became a Rebbe. And he moved to Strashella. He was in Strashella, and he had a huge oilam. And the Mittler Rebbe went to Lubavitch. So there was a split. A lot of people went to the Baal HaTanya. And the Baal HaTanya had many qualities that were very similar to the Alter Rebbe. He was tremendously charismatic. He was unbelievably charismatic. He was a fireball. He would speak. He was very, very dramatic, and he would roll, and he would jump, and he would dance. The Mittler Rebbe was the opposite. The Mittler Rebbe, everything was very introverted, extremely internalized. You couldn't see a lot. So B'chitzoni is the Bad, and Strashella was very. So he was a big magnet. Alter Rebbe's big chassid was Pinchas Roises. He was called his foreign minister. Pinchas Roises wrote in a letter to the Bad and Strashella that Alter Rebbe told him befedish that the Mittler Rebbe should. So why are you doing this? He was upset at him. He says, your position as one of the biggest Talmidim of the Alter Rebbe is genug. The darfst nicht.
What happened with his chassidus?
So he passed away in the middle of davening. Shmini Atzeres, Tovkuf Peites, in the middle of Shachris. He davened for 9 hours, and he passed away in the middle of davening. He was a Ish Kaddish. He wasn't, Shmini Atzeres, Tovkuf Peites. A year after the Mittler Rebbe died very young, 54. They say the safest place to be, B'chal, is in Shul, because the least deaths happen in Shul. That's the statistics today. So if you're in Shul, you don't die. Very few people die. So the Ba'anis Strashella, he became a Rebbe, and the Mittler Rebbe went to Lubavitch. B'shas he passed away, his son took over, but it was a very short time, so all the Chassidim went either to the Tzemach Tzedek, or some went to Velednik, some went to Velednik, Lechovich, but most went back to the Tzemach Tzedek. There are some descendants, Strashella was a special Jew.
Don't worry, one day you'll see a Strashella Stiebel pop up.
The Malachim doesn't not is.
No, the Banas Rasheller came Chaf-Daled Teves once to the oil in Hadich. The Shamish, the Gabbai, was a Kanoi. You know how it is. So he had to, so he locked the doors. He didn't let him. He didn't let him go in. He didn't let him go in. So the Banas Rasheller went up. He climbed up on one of the walls over there by the window. And he gave a scream, "Ay Rebbe, Ay Rebbe," and that was it. They say he crawled in. Some say he crawled in, and the Shamash didn't let him out. He gave a scream. The Mittel Rebbe came later in the afternoon. Chaf-Daled Teves. He went in. He came out and he said, "The Tate will wissen, von was man nicht reingelost, Arala." The Mittel Rebbe said when he says Dorshe Yechudcha Kevavas Shamrein, Dorshe Yechudcha, those who expound on your unity, you should protect them like the apple of your eye. Dorshe Yechudcha Kevavas Shamrein, he thinks about the Banas Rasheller. Dorshe Yechudcha, because he was very into Achdus Hashem. It's fun. He wrote a beer on Tanya, Sharei HaYichud Ve'emunah, and Sharei Avodah, he wrote a beer on Tanya. So the Banas Rasheller, yeah, this was. They had some different shittas. It was, but the Tzemach, but the Mittel Rebbe moved to Lubavitch, and he was there for till he passed away. Well, he passed away. He went to Hadich.
Why did they pack leave?
And he passed away in a city called Niazhin, also in Ukraine.
Why did they leave? Why did they leave Why did they leave?
There was no Yiddishkeit.
There was no Chabad. There was no infrastructure for them.
Wherever they went, they had to rebuild anyway.
Chabad had Chassidim. They had a lot of Chassidim. In Belarus was the.
That survived?
That's. Yeah.
Mittel Rebbe is in Niazhin. Mittel Rebbe.
Yeah, he passed away on the way. He went to Hadich. And after Sukkot, he was happy. He said, "The Tate hat mir gesagt, dass ich kein Absagen sich von der Rabbanis." So the Olam thought he's going to go to Exile or something. He passed away, Tes Kislev, in the Yezhin. So then the Tzemach Tzedek took over in Lubavitch. And then the Rebbe Marash, and then the Rashab. And when the Germans came in the First World War, the Rashab ran away to Rostov. And the Rayats took over in Rostov, moved to Leningrad, was arrested. And then he had to leave Russia. And that was that. Went to Riga, Varsha, Tvotsk, and then New York. Varsha, New York.
Varsha before Tvotsk?
Varsha before Tvotsk.
All this without cell phones and without. They did all this traveling.
They had
They had a kayak. They didn't have ways.
Uber, they had Uber.
They had a lot of.
They had a different type of ways.
Different GPS.
Huh? The Rebbe Maharash lived with tremendous harchava. He lived with Malchus. So once the Tzemach Tzedek came to visit his new house that he built in Lubavitch, and there were huge windows. So the Tzemach Tzedek said, "Was darfst du?" It was very modern windows. Tzemach Tzedek didn't live like that. He lived more poor. But the Rebbe Maharash had his. So the Rebbe Maharash says, "Ich will so sein lichtig. I want the house should be bright. I need big windows. The sun should come in." So Moshe tells him, "Beim Zayden is nicht gewesen as solche Fenster." By the Zayden, Alter Rebbe didn't have such. So Moshe said, "No, it's actually gewesen Fenster." So maybe it was pretty dark in the house. He said, "Beim Zayden is gewesen lichtig." By Zayden it was very bright.
So it was.
The Shab was born and passed away in Lubavitch.
And the Marash also. Also Lubavitch. Tzemach Tzedek not. Tzemach Tzedek in Liadi.
So, if we can go over it, if it's so there's Baal Shem Tov Magid, just generations. Baal Shem Tov Magid, Alter Rebbe, Mittel Rebbe,
Tzemach Tzedek,
Tzadik Marash, Rashab,
Rayatz, and the Rebbe. The
No,
Mittel
Bingo was
Rebbe,
after.
Indeed.
7 generations. From the Alter Rebbe, it was 7. The Mittel Rebbe was a son. Tzemach Tzedek was a Einikul and a son-in-law. The Marash He was a son-in-law of the Mittler Rebbe, and he was an
The nephew.
Doiv Ber.
And
They're called Schneur's son because Schneur, son of the Alter Rebbe, Schneur's son.
the Maggid was a talent of the.
The Maggid is not related. The first two generations were not related. The Baal Shem Tov gave.
But I'm talking about Talmidim. The Tanya was
The Maggid was a Talmud of the Baal Shem Tov. The Tanya was a Talmud of the Maggid.
And Doiber was called.
Son of the
Marash was called after.
The Rashab, his name was Shalom Doiv Ber.
After whom was the Marash?
Oh, the Mittler Rebbe was
The
named for the
Mittler Rebbe was
Maggid.
named for the
He named him for his Rebbe. Yeah.
And in Hanapoli, it's.
Anapoli is the Maggid,
The Maggid and Reb Zisha.
and the B'zusha of Anapoli is there. Now, some other Yidden, Rabbi YY Jacobson,
like
under the
56.
yeah. The Maggid passed away, Yatkis Levosa. The last Shabbos before the Maggid's Ptira, he told the Alter Rebbe, Yutas Kislev is unze Yom Hilula, our wedding day. So that was the Yom Estalkus, and that was the Chag HaGula of Yutas Kislev. Unze Yom Hilula.
So we're technically the 8th generation of the. Without the.
Saint of the Moshe.
Saint of the Moshe.
Or 7B.
7.
You want to be successful?
I'll think of the 15th maybe.
He is. Everybody is. We're all leaders. I'm supposed to think English.
Huh?
When did they, the Malachim break away? That was in one?
That's America, yeah.
America. I lived in Williamsburg. I was in,
Sure.
with the families. There was, yeah, the milk company, but there was also.
The Baden?
His name from David.
Frank, what was in the beginning of the master shell? What was the difference? The Spalus, what was the good?
Spilus, yeah. The Rebbe came to the Alter Rebbe as a Yassim. He was 9 years old. And his first introduction is he sent in a note to the Alter Rebbe. And he wrote on the note, Nefesh Hashvela. Be'emes lamita, eich tiskasher la'atzmos u'muhusein seif baruch hu. A soul that is truly, truly humble, how can it connect to infinity? So the Alter Rebbe came out and he said, Gita Kuk, a 9-jarige Ingel fragt, was Chassidim for 30 Jahre fragen nicht. 9-year-old boy asks what Chassidim for 30 years don't ask. And he became Mamash.
Sounds like the original story.
Al derech, yeah. It's a similar story. He was once walking with a Mittler Rebbe, Pedrushka, like you hold a chassan. There was one hand under the other hand. In the chassan, they were talking chassidus. They were like brothers. So the Alter Rebbe was by the window. He was looking. So somebody tells the Alter Rebbe, Trein Rei in the Lamis Parshin. 2 inseparable friends. The Rebbe said, Halavai. So did Zeltman. The Banas to Shal in the Mittler Rebbe.
They're the same age?
I think he was older. He lived longer also. He lived a year after the Mittler Rebbe. He passed away Tovkuf Beches at the age of 54. Banas Hashem lived for another year. He passed away Shmini Atzeres.
The Messiah with the Yahrzeit wasn't at the same time.
When the Banas Hashem left Liadi the last years, because there was something there, Alter Rebbe said, Matarez genommen an Oik von Kap. He felt like he was very close to him. There was something, I don't know exactly. The Santa Maisa, Rabbi Isaac Hummeler was a chassid of the Baal HaTanya. He didn't know who he should go to. Should he go to the Banas Trashal or to the Mittler Rebbe? They say he went to the Banas Trashal. Tifa Maisa. And this will explain to you why Chabad doesn't appoint another Rebbe. Stop. Well, if you're looking for an answer. So he goes to the Banas Trashal. Banas Trashal was a big Baal Spilus. He was a very emotional person. A Helike Yid. So Banas Trashal set up some Maimer. And he has Geschmack in Maimonim, because it's all Chabad style. When he heard from the Alter Rebbe, he has a very interesting svarim. I have a svarim. So the Banas Trashal finishes Chassidus and he starts a niggin, and he jumps up on the table and he starts dancing. The Isaac is looking, a tanz. And then he sees something. To explain to you what happened, I'll describe it to you. You know how you're sitting with people and you're singing a niggin, and everyone is inspired, and then you finish the niggin once and twice, and the inspiration goes down a little bit because people are bored, but they don't want to admit to themselves that the fire is gone, so they sing the niggin again. They make believe they're alive, but really they're just... It's hard for people to admit that you were inspired for like 29 seconds and you were touching God, and then it's all over and you feel nothing. It's not a geschmacka feeling. So, you copy yourself from 10 seconds ago. The Kotzke says, you copy yourself, you make believe, and you do the niggin again, and then after the third time it's nicht gefährlich. You see it a lot, right? You know what I'm talking about? By kumzitzes, by farbrengens, by davenings. The Banas Rashel is dancing, and he finished the niggin. He's dancing, and he finished one. And the Isaac saw that the fire went down a little bit, but he continued the niggin. So he said by his first name, Adela, Adop from Tish. They wanted to kill him, he ran away. And he said, by the Alter Rebbe you won't find this. In other words, by a Rebbe has to be tachlis ha'emes. There can't be even a nitzutz of shtick. By Chsidim Meila, people are people, but by a Rebbe, every Indian has to be emes la mitay mamish. If not, come down from the table, stop it. And he left. He left. Sapel ma? Lech tesaper et zu. Hayu mo'odji geshen. By the Rebbe, was unbelievable. You couldn't find a Schneur of... I'll give you a dogma. The Rebbe used to cry when he spoke. Not a lot, but mizman he would cry. Usually when people cry, they get emotional, even if it's real. They extend the crying to the next section. So they're not still mad. Shirayim, so you go weiter. Yeah. The oil is already melting, so why not, what's it called? Squeeze. Milk up some hair. And it's not for bad reasons, it's some oil design Yiddish hair. It's shiva, yeah. Luchem, shiva. Shavavim. You forgot Shavavim. You forgot Shavavim. He wasn't there. So, the Rebbe, a second before he started to cry, he didn't know he was going to this. He came to the words that were emotional, he cried, and that was it. It could be like, there was no... no extras. Nothing. It was a moment of this, and then that's it. Kaloi haya.
It's very strong.
Yeah, it could be very strong. And sometimes it was so strong that he couldn't continue speaking, even if he tried. Sometimes not. Sometimes he would tell a story, you knew he was going to cry. There were certain stories he would always cry, but it was that second. And
was it like pulling back?
There was no such a thing, shtick. There was no such a thing, something not MS, something
what
not...
What stories
What's that?
You didn't always know why. There were certain things. He once told a Monsey, he started to cry very heavy. That it's so sad, the Hoibin Monsey.
Yes, if you're crying.
The Alter Rebbe.
If you're crying, you need that. Don't cry.
No, you're out of competition.
The Alter Rebbe. The Alter Rebbe called in a younger man, and he told them how he put it to him. He basically wanted to hire a teacher for the Alter Rebbe. So what would most people do? You call somebody up and you'll say, how much do you take an hour, right? Then I'll want to hire you. The way the Alter Rebbe presented it, you see how to present something. The Alter Rebbe said, Herzachai, ich habe a mitzvah v'shinantam levanecha. I have a mitzvah to educate my children. You have a mitzvah Sha'ayre ksisa v'inasa lo yigra. You're mechuyev to support your wife and children. It's a chiyuv al pitayra. Not everybody knows it, that a husband is mechuyev to pay the bills for the wife and the kids.
The husband's supposed to, or the wife is supposed to? No, there's some parts in the Yiddish dynasties that the wife works. So that's
So the Alter Rebbe said, I have a mitzvah to educate my son, you have a mitzvah to support your family. Lama sich baiten a mitzvah for a mitzvah. You hear how he put it? We're going to exchange my mitzvah with your mitzvah. Ich will mefeiner sein der Weib, und du wirst mechanach sein mein Kind. Which is basically hiring the teacher and paying him. That's but how he said it. Lama sich baiten. It's not stam you hire a malam. It's a din. There's a geder. There's a chalois. Yeah.
And he would cry over here.
No, not yet. Not yet.
So
Not yet.
he wouldn't have children.
Not yet. I don't know. I'm not going to interpret it.
But he started the story like this. Like he started the
Yeah, I
story.
mean Yiddish. Bekitz.
Yeah.
So the Rebbe said, weißt du es, als es gewesen a kluge junger Mann. It looks like he was a clever man. How do we know? He tells the Alter Rebbe, the deal is not fair. It's not, man kann sich nicht beiten. Rebbe says, why? He says, your part of the deal is very simple. You just need money. That's it. Just my wife and kids need money. They just need food and this. My part of the deal is I have to educate your child. Darf man doch wissen wie. I have to know how. So Rebbe said, because he understood it's an opportunity to get from the Alter Rebbe, not stam to be hired, to get from him a derech in chinuch. So he said, it's not fair. You know what to do. I don't know what to do. He said, I have to know how. So the Alter Rebbe went into a dveikus for a few moments, and then he came out and he said, the Middle Rebbe was a baby. He was mamash a little kid. He said, Haschalos hachinuch is aleph beis. You start teaching aleph beis. In aleph beis itself, heit man mit an aleph. That's the first thing you mechanech a child, letter aleph. Now the Rebbe did the niggin that he heard from his father-in-law all the way back. How about that? Vos is an aleph. Was is an aleph?
That's the nigga. Can you say it with the nigga?
Apin telefon eben, apin telefon unten, das is an aleph, a yud von eben, a yud von unten, a kaf von Yerushalayim beemtza, das is an aleph. An aleph has a yud on the top, a yud on the bottom, right? And a line in the middle. So the Rebbe says, that's what I want you to educate my child. So da yud oiben, da yud unten, and there's a line that connects them. That's what I want. The Rebbe said this at in mitten. Giving you an example. But that's what he told the Malamed. You hear? He defined Judaism for a 3-year-old kid in a sentence, in an aleph. This is what I want you to teach. If this is what my boy will understand, you did your job. Huh? Aleph, a Yud L'mayla. The Yud L'mayla is Hashem. The Yud L'mat is Ayid, a Chelik L'kamimah. And ganz Yiddishkeit is to show the unity between the two. The Kaf and Yerushalayim be'emtza, that connects the two. So I once played a tape of the Rebbe. This was in weekdays. It was Yud Shvat, and for my kids in my house once, I played it, and they listened. And I asked my boys, "Why do you think the Rebbe is crying? It's not a sad story. It's a beautiful story. He's explaining what an aleph is. Why is he crying?" So everybody said different interpretations. I had one boy, Schneur Zalman, who's by over there. Zalman said he's crying. Your son's friend.
Oh, okay, yeah.
He was 6. He said the Rebbe was crying over the fact that the two Yuds have to be united. Because really they're supposed to be one. Why do you have to unite? So that's what he was crying about. I told my wife, das is a Heichen Neshama. Das is Yichud Ilah. You understand the fact that you have to connect it? It's a sensitive idea, huh? Baruch Shem Kvoid Malchusa is already. So they came, the Mittler Rebbe was not like his father. His father was, the Mittler Rebbe was much more internal. So there was a person who came to the Mittler Rebbe and said, don't move back to Lubavitch, Liadi, Liozna, because over there everybody knew your father, and they're not going to come to you. Some of us, you got to go to places that your father didn't go. Go to deep Ukraine or other parts, and then you'll just chazer over his Titus. The Hest? That's what this person told the Mittler Rebbe. Huh?
A franchise.
Yeah, you'll make believe. He didn't understand. So the Mittler Rebbe on the spot, listen to this, said that when Hashem told Moshe to go to become the leader of the Jewish people, so Moshe said, I'm going to tell the Jewish people, Hine, Elokei Aveseichem shlachamni aleichem va'amru li ma shmoi ma'omer aleim. They're going to ask me, what's his name? What's Hashem's name? What should I say? Eya asher eka asher eka. But the Rebbe said you have to touch the pasuk a little differently. Not va'amru li ma shmoi ma'omer aleim. I'm going to come to the Jewish people. I'm going to tell you I have a message from Hashem. Va'amru li ma shmoi. They're going to say meves and shine. They're going to tell me what his name is. Say, what are you going to be mechadish? We know everything there is to know about God. Va'amru li ma shmoi. They know they're Jews. The Jews know everything. You're not going to teach them anything. Va'amru li ma shmoi. They're going to tell me what is ma'omer aleim. What am I going to tell them? They raise their face. Shenal Toidas. Oh, Anaya Rashcha Baha came to teach us about. Hashem said, you'll teach them Eya Asher Eya. What's that? Aleph Hey Yud Hey is 21. 21 times 21.
122.
Emes. Emes. They're going to tell you what his name is, but you're going to tell them the truth. Eya Asher Eya, 21 times 21.
441?
Yeah, you're going to give them emes. They'll tell you everything, but it's not true. It's not real. You're going to give them the truth. That's what the Mittler Rebbe answered. That's what he answered. People who know the price of everything and the value of nothing. They know all the names. They know everything. Alle meisters, alle wertlich. It's like an emes. The Eka Asher Eka.
Gavra, the Oren.
V'chi Oren Gavru. Yeah. As a Oren and Ishkin Gavra. So he said that's what you'll tell them. You'll tell them Eka Asher Eka. That's what you're going to give them.
This class is brought to you by the yeshiva.net. Please help us continue the classes. Make even a small contribution at www.theyeshiva.net/donate.